Hey, Prime members, you can listen to Crime and Sports early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Download the app today.
In the depths of an Atlanta forest, a clash between activists and authorities ends in tragedy. I'm Matthew Scher, and on my new podcast, We Came to the Forest, we expose the hidden truths behind a shootout that left one activist dead and countless lives forever changed. Binge all episodes of We Came to the Forest ad-free on Wondery Plus.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Crime and Sports.
Yay!
Oh, yay indeed, Jimmy. Yay indeed. My name is James Petrogallo. I'm here with my co-host.
I am Jimmy Westman.
Thank you, folks, so much for joining us on another wonderful, crazy, insane edition of Crime and Sports. And today, extra fun because it seems like everyone's favorite episodes are the wrestling episodes.
Yeah.
Wrestling's one of those things that even if you're not a fan of it, you've seen it on in the background. Everybody kind of knows what it is and what it's about, and you know, you don't really need to know the rules. It's it's one of those things where you can just casually
the athleticism
see it.
And the sport itself isn't near as fascinating as when they leave.
That's what's crazy. And we have a wild one for you today. Can't wait to get into it. But very quickly first, before we do, want to thank you for what you've done for us this whole week and forever, for years now, for 6 years now. Thank you for your reviews this week, and always, they help a lot. Whatever platform you're listening to, drop a review, and it helps us. Thank you for those 5 stars. Also, head over to shutupandgivememurder.com. Get tickets for the live shows coming up. This weekend, Small Town Murder, we have live shows. We are in Pittsburgh on the 8th of April, and then the next night we're in Columbus, Ohio. So get your tickets there. They're almost gone, so scoop them up. Sell that bad boy out. And Columbus is very close to being done, and Pittsburgh is pretty close. So Pittsburgh, don't let Columbus is going to really?
Ew.
I thought you were supposed to be like the city of champions or whatever. Fucking, what are you talking about? Get over here. Get in there. So
immaculately catch this.
Exactly. Do immaculately receive this, please. So also Crime and Sports, there is one Crime and Sports live show with some tickets left. That is Sacramento Ace of Spades, that show there. Get your tickets that night. And there's a Small Town Murder that night too, but it's sold out. So sell it out, Crime and Sports people. Also Patreon, that's the word I'm looking for. Patreon.com/Crime and Sports. Great stuff this week. Anybody $5 or above is going to get everything, all the bonus stuff for Crime and Sports, for Small Town Murder, for everything. And this week we have some amazing ones. We have the greatest April Fool's hoax, maybe of all time, I think, here in the Sid Finch story, which is a story of a Mets pitcher who they found in Tibet on a mountain, and it can throw 168 miles an hour because he's learned how to focus the energy of the universe. It's crazy. You got to hear the story.
Or he's an art teacher from Maine.
Or just an art teacher who was friends with a photographer who worked for Sports Illustrated. And it's hilarious. And then for Small Town Murder, one of the worst people we've ever talked about, Diane Downs. Terrible woman who shot her kids and has so little remorse for it, she still won't even admit to it. And the way she denies it is disgusting. So if you want to hear... just be repulsed by a human being, listen to that episode because it's absolutely nuts. Patreon.com/Crime and Sports is where you get all of that good stuff. And you get shout outs for that too. For sure. A shout out at the end of the show where Jimmy's going to mispronounce your name. So sign on up. We can't wait. That said, let's get into this because it's a lot of show, as it always is with a wrestler, especially one who had such a kind of a not storied, but a mainstream career like this guy.
Long career.
Let's talk about him. Lawrence Wendell Pfohl. You know who I'm talking about, Jimmy?
Is that Mick Foley?
That is Lex Luger.
Close enough.
Yeah, Mick Foley.
What?
His name is Mick Foley. That's his real real name.
That's his real name?
Mick Foley, yeah. It's Michael, I think. Michael Foley. Lawrence Wendell Pfohl, Pfohl. by the way. So
that is a terrible name.
Terrible. Pfohl, Pfohl. What the fuck is what is your name, young man?
Larry Pfohl? What is that?
I think you're Larry Pfohl. That's what I'm gonna call you from now on. Larry Pfohl.
Why? What kind of name?
Better known as Lex Luger, obviously, or the total package. Lex Luger, or his other nicknames, the Narcissist, as we'll get into in WWF later on. He is born June 2nd, 1958. Lex is here. Now, his parents, Roger and Marion, they're all Buffalo is where this all starts. He's born in Buffalo. His parents are big Buffalo people.
Yeah.
His parents were students at the University of Buffalo when they met. And by the way, a lot of this. Lex is such an arrogant motherfucker, okay? He's the most arrogant. Like, not to spoil it, but later on he'll go to WWEF at the time, and they will give him the character of the Narcissist. And in the beginning, literally, Bobby Heenan carries a fucking, body length mirror with him so Lex can stop and pose and look at himself in the mirror. And they gave that to him because that's who he is.
He earned it.
Everybody in wrestling said he could not walk by a mirror without stopping and admiring himself. Not seeing something, popping just being like, looking and like being like, you sexy motherfucker, and like posing and flexing to himself.
They called him that because Vanity Smurf was taken.
Yeah, they said, sorry, we can't do that. The Care Bear with the compact on their stomach is not. Can't do that. The selfie filter bear is not. We already have one of those. So Lex writes this book, and so a lot of this information, like about his background, comes from this book. So there's a lot of quotes I have to read right from this book because they're just ridiculous. And the way he says it, even with, a ghostwriter writing the actual words down for him and then an editor going through it, even with two filters, he still sounds insanely arrogant. I can't imagine what the tape recordings of him saying this shit were like. It's got to be amazing.
Drag his words through the fingers typing of two extra people. Still an asshole.
Still an asshole, yeah. He says, quote, "My dad was a brilliant musician with his sights set on becoming a concert pianist. My mom was brilliant academically. She had been valedictorian of her high school class with the added distinction of carrying the highest grade point average." Great. Of all the students in the Buffalo school system throughout her entire education. So from K to 12,
constantly the smartest.
Number one always, best grades ever.
Good for you, Mary.
Good for you. She would go on to excel in college, both as an undergrad while getting her master's degree. So that's nice. His parents met in their first year there. They were in choir. His mom was singing in the choir. Dad was like pianist accompanying the choir type of deal. Everybody he would, after after rehearsal, he would like fuck around on the piano and they'd play kind of name that tune type of shit. And so all the girls would gather around him. This guy knew what he was doing. This is in the 60s, this guy would have been sitting under a tree with a guitar. You know what I mean? Like he knew it was up here. He would do all this type of shit, and they got along because his mother knew classical stuff. So he'd play classical stuff and she would know what the hell that shit was. And so he was like, "Ooh, look at you." Yeah. So, they started talking and they had a lot in common. He says that his dad was a child prodigy on the piano, which I don't know if that's true or not, but anyway, his grandfather, his mother's father, played tuba in the Buffalo Philharmonic Orchestra.
Wow.
So that's why have you ever heard? I've seen people playing tubas, but I've never heard of someone being a tuba player. I assume those people they make them in a petri dish. We need more tuba players. And they just get a dish out and mix some shit together and
they got to
put a
exist
tuba in his
somewhere.
hand.
But I think
tuba
worldwide, there's probably only a need of like 11 of them.
There's a tuba farm somewhere. They just farm out these tuba kids.
We might have a surplus.
There's that, and the kid who does the psh at the end with the cymbals. There's that. We need 11 tuba players.
The crash cymbal guy.
12 of the crash cymbal guys. Because we only have that many gloves. They're always wearing white gloves. We only have that many pairs. So, sorry.
The bass drum guy too, in the marching band, that seems like an easy job.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that guy doesn't have that. He doesn't have it too tough.
No, it's attached.
He just
to
gets
his
to
chest.
smile and be a part of this shit, and he's gonna get laid because his noise makes the most noise.
You hear it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the snare drum guy, he's more fancy, or girl, they're fancy because they're loud as fuck, and they can get like fancy with it because it's like it's not a beat.
But that seems like it takes effort.
Oh yeah,
you got to learn that.
You got to be good at that. Yeah, the fucking triangle guy is just like ding. I mean, I could teach you to do that if I knew how. I'm sure.
At least the bass guy has to. He keeps up with them. You know. What I mean?
Yeah. He's got to keep a beat going. It's got to at least keep a straight rhythm.
That seems fun as shit.
It seems
Boom.
Yeah.
Boom. Boom.
And only worrying about
boom,
the one drum.
Boom. Boom. So easy.
Imagine if a band, like a regular band, had like 5 different drummers. They all just concentrated on one guy's the bass guy, the other guy just does the snare at the right time, other guy's all cymbals, one guy's doing the toms and shit. Like,
that's not easy.
Has anyone ever tried that before? Could you syncopate fucking like 4 people doing that? Because that would be amazing. Because they could do shit with that nobody else could do.
If 5 guys together played Tom Sawyer, I want to watch that.
One drum set. Yeah, that'd be incredible. 5 guys on essentially one drum set broken down. I've never heard of that before. I don't know. People do weird shit in music with that. I've heard of bands having multiple drummers, but they all have one full drum sets. What the fuck is that? You're just fighting with each other.
That would be so distracting to watch.
It's stupid.
Like the boom, 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 boom.
It's so dumb. But if you had 4 or 5 of them back there, each with like 1-2 drums set up, and it would be, you could actually keep a beat, I bet.
5 guys playing Tom Sawyer, playing Rush's Tom Sawyer. I want to watch that. Put that shit on TikTok.
5 guys playing fucking Seek and Destroy by Metallica.
Yeah.
So, anyway, they end up, dad here, they get married in college. And then they have a son pretty quickly named Barry, who is Lex's older brother here. And dad has to drop out of school and starts working as a security guard at the Trico factory where windshield wipers were made. Oh. That's to go from prodigy to watching the windshield wipers after hours is a different.
Yeah,
it's a big
from playing Flight of the Bumblebee and getting laid.
Yeah,
to throwing some new Rain-X together.
You're not even throwing them together. You're just overseeing the area where in 4 or 5 hours people will come in and make Rain-X. You don't even.
Oh, he's not. He's the guard.
He's the night security guard.
Oh, Jesus.
So he's just like, yep, hanging out. Here we are. Look at that.
Here I am. Look, there's the stuff that people will use eventually.
Make sure no one will break in and steal all the windshield wipers at night. That's his job. So he said 3 years after that, his sister came along, and then while she was less than 2 years old, Lex is born in 1958. So they start pumping the kids out. They open a piano store, his parents do, called Rogers Quality Pianos and Organs, which seems like a good name for a piano store owned by a guy named Roger. It's on Main Street in Buffalo. And, he said he wanted to be just like his dad. And his dad would wear a suit and tie to work because every man wore a suit and tie in 1960 when they went to work like that, especially when you want people to spend $1,000 or $5,000 on a piano.
Yeah.
You have to
dress nice.
Yeah, you can't.
You're wearing flip flops and some O'Neill shorts.
Yeah. I'm like,
to sell me a fucking Yamaha.
What do you know about this shit? I'm giving you money. So Lex said he wanted to be just like his dad, so he insisted on wearing a suit to kindergarten every day.
Really?
He wanted to, when he started going to kindergarten, he's like, well, that dad leaves the house like that. That's how I know people leave the house. Why are you trying to put me in fucking culottes? No.
You'll grow into 3 different suits in kindergarten, though.
Mom, I need a power tie. It's fucking Friday, and I really want to let these people know through the weekend that I've dominated their shit for the week.
Want these people who's in charge of the farmer and the devil.
It's both. Listen, Mom, it's there's some strife in the sandbox, and I have to talk to some people today, so I need to look my best and be real presentable to do this. So eventually, though, he said the kindergarten teacher called his mother and said that, quote, Mrs. Pfohl, it's really difficult for the class to finger paint when Larry is always wearing a suit. It's kindergarten. There's messiness. They run outside.
Yeah.
He's got fucking shoulder pads on.
Yeah.
Talking about, hey, you're messing with my fucking pocket square, asshole. What is going on here?
He got Crayola on his vest.
A lot of when that's going on. Oh! This kid got fucking Smucker's jelly on my goddamn tie. This is bullshit. So, by first grade, he said he outgrew his suit phase. He was like, all the other kids aren't. Okay, it's only when my dad goes to work. So, he said, though, business started to pick up and the store was open 7 days a week. And he said before the store opened on weekends, he and his sister had to, clean the store and shit like that.
Yeah.
He said he was the youngest, so he had to mop the floors and clean the windows in the bathroom, all the shit jobs.
All the janitor shit.
Dusting the pianos and everything like that. He said that, his dad would pay him and he'd get some burgers and some, fucking milkshakes and shit like that. And he'd feel like hot shit. He'd go buy his Superman comic and he'd be like, yes, I'm king shit. I got paid there. And also a lot of candy because he likes candy and he always will like candy. He said, though, the store took up so much of his parents' time that after school, the kids were kind of on their own, so he got to be able to go fuck around. He said that his brother and sister were probably supposed to watch him, but they didn't, basically. They just, right. Back then you let kids run wild. What are they going to do?
Yeah, and that was in the fucking 60s.
Yeah.
In the 80s, it was still like that.
Yeah, in the 60s, it was like, get out. Don't come. Get out of here until it gets dark. I don't want to see you on the property till dark, you tell kids. What the fuck? Get out.
In the Sandlot, the mom, Adrian, told her son to go get in trouble.
Yeah, go do things.
That's what they want you to do.
Like a normal kid. Yeah. In Mad Men, the one kid comes over and Don goes, I think there's a BB gun and some peanut butter sandwiches outside. Here, go ahead. I don't know which one parents would dive and knock out of your hand first if you tried to hand it to their kid now. Oh, God. Little Austin.
He's allergic.
Austin's allergic to peanut butter. Oh, my God. Freak out. Not that peanut butter allergies are good. I have a cousin who has to carry a pen with her. Like, there's no shit.
Yeah.
Like, some people have them real bad and they will die. That shit's for real.
Yeah.
But it's... some people, I think, are afraid of it.
Which is more dangerous, though? Losing an eye or not, or your throat locking up.
But they were just like, kids like BBs and peanut butter back then. Fucking go outside and play with that shit. I don't know.
Get out there.
If you find a wild animal, try to pet it. See
if you're allergic to the sandwich, shoot it.
Shoot it, yeah. And if that animal won't let you pet it, shoot that too. So he said he would go out and explore the world after school and run around. He said it was in Buffalo. He said it was kind of an urban area, a lot of concrete and chain link fences and all that kind of shit. Yeah. He said that there was a plaza with a Woolworths. Oh, very exciting. Yeah. A barber shop, a drugstore, and a strip mall, an old school strip mall. Yeah. And he said he became a regular there. And he said he was very happy about that, and he wanted to be able to do things on his own when he wanted and be independent. He's 10 now. He's grown out of his suit phase. He's ready to be independent. He said that there was a lot of expectations on him musically because his family on both sides had musical talent. So they were like, you must be good at music. Play music. He said that he had to take piano lessons. They were all forced to take piano lessons. Right. He said Barry started with piano, then switched to guitar. And Barbara became very good at piano and as a singer, but he said he hated doing anything musically. Sure. He said it was like being marched to his execution to go to piano class. He fucking hated it. He said when he was 10 and he was determined to make piano lessons miserable for everyone so he wouldn't have to do it anymore. He vowed to wear his teacher and his parents down is what he did here. So he said that he had to give the piano teacher credit. She'd try to encourage him, and then he'd just do it terribly on purpose. And she'd be like, it's okay, you can do it again. Like, she must have thought he was fucking brain damaged or something. And he was just like, bang, 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 bang. Like, what the fuck? But
Billy Joel used to do that. Did you know that?
What, bang?
He used to... So he learned piano and was really good at it. Mm-hmm. So and his mom would hear him playing, so she got him like a teacher, and the teacher would come over and show him things, and he would play like shit on purpose because he didn't want to learn what she was teaching him.
That's fair.
Everything he does, he learned on his own. The guy's a fucking genius.
That is very interesting. That's like...
I wish I would have seen that, though. A 10-year-old Billy Joel banging on the keys because he doesn't want to learn Tchaikovsky.
Well, that's like Prince played every instrument, but everyone said he couldn't read music.
Fascinating.
But he could play everything. He'd do fucking everything on his own when he'd record at home half the time. Like he just
nothing cooler than a fucking street musician.
That's
like
pretty
that.
goddamn cool,
That's
man.
so rad.
Very talented and crazy, and I guess that's what you are, though. I mean, it's some people have that gift. Some people can jump really high. Some people are funny. I mean, it's just one of those things.
It's true. Yeah. Which magic trick are you good at?
You know what Prince isn't? Funny. So or wasn't funny. There you go. I'm not not intentionally he was funny, but with the whole pancakes and all that kind of shit, that's hilarious. But
that is hilarious, but he didn't do that as a joke on purpose.
No.
It's just him living his life.
Yeah. So anyway, piano not for him. Athletics are more for him. He's into that. Mm-hmm. Here's a quote directly from his book. Quote, "Not only did I have lightning speed, I soared over the high jump, breaking the third grade school record handily." What school keeps records of third graders' athletic accomplishments?
Yeah.
Where are these record books? Who is sitting there as children try to jump high and I got to write down that tough. He's fucking
and
8.
I think that the high jump of an 8-year-old is vastly different than that of an adult. And it certainly depends basically on how tall you are in third grade.
How tall you are. How
that's not fair.
Quickly you're developed. Anything youthful like that doesn't matter till puberty anyway. We have to get till everyone's full on into puberty before it matters. Before that, it's all... your growth spurt, you can stop growing, you could grow a foot. Who the hell knows what's going to happen?
Right.
It doesn't matter. When I was 12, I was fucking 5'7" and chubby. And then when I was...
How was your high jump?
When I was not as good as it was when I was 13 and a half, when I was 6'2" and skinny. Got a lot better then. A year later when I shot up and became a different human. That's so weird
that you would be so much better at
Isn't that strange? It's really, really weird that I got really a lot better at sports all of a sudden when I was taller and less chubby. Weird. So he broke the third grade school. I want to see the records. I want to see show me who's got the best 40 time. Let's see.
And tell me, what are they doing today?
Yeah. Now what? If they were 8, you were an athletic 8-year-old isn't something that helps you as an adult at all.
Right.
Never. If someone said I was a really athletic 8-year-old, you'd be like, so? Like,
well, what the fuck happened?
Why are you telling me this now? Who cares? You work with me. Why are you? So,
I make more than you.
Yeah, right. Hey, I'm your boss. What are you talking about? What's happening, dude? Why are you saying this all of a sudden with these people? Yeah, that would be fucking amazing. So he said, quote, "I excelled in every fitness test, scoring above 100% across the board." How do you score above 100% on a fitness test?
I got extra credit.
I got extra credit for being so much more head and shoulders above the other children. That's what happened.
I did it well, but I also looked good doing it.
Well, I was a very sexy young man is the thing. I was I had sex appeal at 8. I got a high jump, great 40 time, and sex appeal at 8. That's the thing. That's how Lex thinks of himself, though.
Sure.
Always. He said that, this is good, too. My playground cred skyrocketed. Everyone began treating me differently. I often heard my closest friends defending me to older kids. Larry is the fastest kid in the whole school, and he's only in the 3rd grade. Yeah, and he can jump the highest, too. He's their hero. He's a hero, Jimmy.
Yeah.
A hero. He said he would smile and just be like, he thought to himself, I'm really talented. Yeah, this is good. He literally said he would sit there and think, quote, I really am talented. That's what he would say to himself.
So much for humility.
3rd grade, super pleased with himself at 8.
Yeah.
That's interesting. From his accomplishments, that's the other thing.
Yeah.
So basketball is the sport that he liked to kind of play a little bit on and off. He didn't play a lot of organized sports in school here in the younger days. He said he never played basketball till 6th grade. He said he saw some kids shooting hoops there, and he said it looks like fun and looked pretty easy. He thought I could do that.
Looks easy.
So he asked if he could try a few shots. What? He said, I dribbled a few times to get a feel for the ball. I didn't make any baskets on my first attempt, but I was hooked. So he said he would just play basketball for hours and hours and hours and, That's all he wanted to do after that. He also said at this point he started becoming a bit of a juvenile delinquent as well. He said shoplifting, at the mall with him and his friends. They'd be, doing that sort of shit. At middle school, him and his friends seeing what they can steal. He said that we'd spend hours in the stores trying on the newest athletic wear, jewelry, and clothes. The first time I successfully swiped a pair of Converse tennis shoes. So he's stealing like sneakers. That's not like, you're not stealing knickknacks here. He said, I was pumped. The thrill of defying the authorities, especially pulling off something right under their noses, was exhilarating. Before long, we were taking orders from our classmates, stealing the merchandise and selling it. To us, it was a game. That's actually a stolen property criminal enterprise.
Yeah, that
is what you've just described. It's not Chutes and Ladders. That is fucking felonies and misdemeanors. It's a different game.
You've decided to steal and sell the shit.
Yeah.
Like that's a criminal enterprise.
That's crime and punishment as opposed to Chutes and Ladders. It's a different game.
That's what the mob did, Lex.
This is called a stolen goods ring. That's what the police would call it.
You're stealing property and fencing it.
Fencing it to children, through children.
Wow.
So he said it went on for weeks and weeks, just kept going. He said then one night he and a friend were caught. He was busted, and the security guard called his friend's parents, and he said that he gave him the number to his parents' store, the piano store. And they said, I have your son in my office. He was caught stealing. Would you like to come get him? He said the guard seemed taken aback by the response. He hung up the phone and looked at me. He said to lock you up and throw away the key, is what his dad said.
His dad said, I know it's racketeering. Lock him up on RICO charges.
Sounds like a racket. Tell him to ask one of the other Gambinos to help him out. I don't know what to tell you, because I'm not helping him. Oh, he's got a racket going on? He's not chipping in for any rent, though. No, he had a racket.
See if he's paid taxes on that and lock his ass up.
Yeah, what's up with that? Evasion, bitch. So he said to the security guard, quote, you must have talked to my dad. Call back and ask for my mom. So
she's nicer.
She wouldn't do that. So he said eventually the mall never filed charges. They thought it was his first offense and they felt like going easy on him. He was like 12. So they were like, we'll go easy on him. He's just being a jerk off kid. He said that his mom eventually picked him up, but was pissed off at him. He said that his dad came home and he was ready to get a whooping. He said he was ready, bracing himself for a belt beating. He was ready to take that. And he said, Lawrence, I'm beyond disappointed with you. I don't even recognize you as my son. Jesus.
You look real Italian to me today.
You're looking swarthy and Italian. I don't know what it is about it. Do you have oil in your hair? What is going on here?
Racketeering, wearing suits. What are you, a gangster?
You look tanner today than you did yesterday. What's going? Are you getting an olive skin tone now? What's happening?
You smell of garlic, you little bastard.
You just told your mom her veal parmesan is for shit. What's going on here? She's trying her best, Larry. Give me a break.
You threw a spoon of sauce at her and said, this isn't San Marzano.
I said, what is this? What are these, Roma? Shit. San Marzano or nothing. And then he grabbed the pot and threw it into the front yard. Sauce went everywhere. All over the buffalo snow. I picture the red sauce splattered. It's a trick. Mom's looking at it while steam pours up from the melting snow with the sauce upon it. Meatballs sitting in little clumps on the snow or in the sauce. A couple of sausages here and there.
Handful of dusting of Parmesan right in her face.
And then he flexes. Ah! He's just the Hulk Hogan. Like, ah! Take that. So,
Your Parmesan's for shit.
We don't appreciate this, Larry. I'm sorry.
Larry, your back talks enough.
It's enough. We will. My son will not turn Italian under my roof. I swear to God, I will not have this.
It's turning Italian. Think so.
Let me say it so you can understand it, Lawrence. Disgraziad. What is that? Do you get it now? This is what I'm getting at here. He said, I don't even recognize you as my son. No son of mine would steal something that wasn't his. I didn't raise my children that way. Apparently you did, because he came out of your dick. Yeah. There he is.
He's tiny still.
Yeah.
He's still a child.
He's a child. He said that was worse than any physical punishment he could have taken. It was terrible.
Oh.
He felt awful about it. And so he played more about sports. He wanted to play football. His basketball coach talked him into playing football, he said. So he wanted to play football, and he said that his dad refused to sign it. He said, that isn't a sport. What's sporting about putting on pads and running into other people? What good could possibly come of that? That's a hilarious. What good could come of that? It could be said about anything. What good could come from anything, really? Why bother? I mean,
yeah. Why leave the house?
We're going out to dinner. What good could come of that? How is that? You have food at home, don't you? They have stores and you have a stove. I don't understand. It's a very weird thing. So he said that he really wanted to play, though. By the way, everyone called him Lair back then, which is the most annoying shortening, unless it's Susie and Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah,
it's the only person that's allowed to say that.
She does, doesn't she?
He always calls it Lair.
Yeah.
So people would call him Lair because it was short. And he says his dad would say, look at your birth certificate. I did not name you Lair. I did not name you Larry. I named you Lawrence. That's the name we chose for you.
Have you ever gotten a message out of the blue? Maybe you ignore them. Or maybe you end up in conversation. Maybe they tell you about an amazing offer. I can really show you how to make some money. And maybe that gets you into a lot of trouble. But this isn't a story about people like you, the people receiving these messages. This is a story about the people behind the messages, on the other end of the line. Thousands of them, working in a microcity built for scammers. From Wondery, the makers of Dr. Death and Kill List, comes Scam Factory, a new series about survival at the expense of others. Follow Scam Factory on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to Scam Factory early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts.
A few miles from the glass spires of Midtown Atlanta lies the South River Forest. In 2021 and 2022, the woods became a home to activists from all over the country who gathered to stop the nearby construction of a massive new police training facility, nicknamed Cop City.
At approximately 9 o'clock this morning, as law enforcement was moving through various sectors of the property, an individual, without warning, shot a Georgia State Patrol trooper.
This is We Came to the Forest, a story about resistance.
The abolitionist mission isn't done until every prison is empty and shut down.
Love and fellowship.
It was probably the happiest I've ever been in my life.
And the lengths we'll go to protect the things we hold closest to our hearts. Follow We Came to the Forest on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can binge all episodes of We Came to the Forest early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus.
Haven't you heard of Olivier?
God damn it. Sorry, the other kids don't want to use that many syllables, and Lara is shorter.
Right.
What do you want from me?
Also, Dad, Lawrence gets me wedgies.
Yeah.
Can I just go by Larry, please?
Larry sounds kind of tough. Lawrence sounds like not very tough at all.
No. Unless you're Taylor, that's the only one.
Yes. Well, I don't know if that's tough either. So he said he started fucking around with a J.C. Penney weight set at home, a plastic set. You remember those weights that had like sand in them you could hear, like those shit.
Or concrete.
Yeah, so you're like, what's in there? Broken fucking soul, the bones of the deceased.
The people that made this.
What's happening here? He said he didn't know what he was doing. He knew he loved doing push-ups, so he was already more muscular than the other kids. And he says, quote, I just hadn't realized how physically developed I was becoming, but other people were definitely noticing.
Oh, who are they?
Here we go. He said the summer of his freshman year, they moved into a new house, and his parents said they would pay him to paint the exterior as his summer job.
Yeah.
Okay. So
That's hard fucking work, man.
That's real hard work. House painting in the summer. I mean, I know Buffalo, the summer's only a week and a half long, but still, it's a long week and a half.
The only time you can. That's when everybody's painting.
They're like, oh, it's raining today. Never mind. The season's blown, everybody. Maybe next year. all the houses in Buffalo are unpainted. That's they've never been able to do it. It's just always
they're all flaking
off. He said that he used to do it with his grandfather, who used to paint houses on the side. So he'd do that with his grandfather. So he says, this is amazing. It was a sultry summer, so I often worked shirtless. Hold on. I need to get the what's his name's wife's Leon Spinks's wife's fucking book voice for this. It was a sultry summer, so I often worked shirtless. As the weeks
glistening,
As the weeks passed, my tan got darker and my blonde hair got lighter. Soon, I became the subject of neighborhood gossip, especially since we were still getting to know everyone. Finally, someone said to my mom, "Where did you find that Adonis to paint your house?" "Oh, him," she laughed. "That's my youngest son, Larry. He'll be a sophomore in high school this fall." "He's in high school?" the woman said, completely flabbergasted.
I can't believe I want to fuck a child.
I was about to go over and seduce him. Like, I was literally going to say, "You look hot, want to come over for some lemonade?" And I was going to be sucking his dick by sip 3. Do you understand? I was going to be all over that shit.
16? I can't believe I almost fucked a kid.
Wow, that was a close one, eh? You elbow her. That's crazy. Imagine, picture 2 guys standing in the road. The one guy goes, "Where did you get this hot piece of ass to paint your fucking, look at the tits on this fucking, I'm going to put them together and put my dick between them. I'm going to fucking thrust so fucking, that's my daughter. She's in high school. Oh, that's so silly of me. So anyway, did you see the Jets game this weekend?" No. Wouldn't happen.
You get that Adonis to paint your house.
You could be like, "I want to fuck your son," and women are like, "Oh, I know, he's handsome." So
all
different.
The time.
You're not going to rape him. You know, he could physically overtake you. So no, we're not.
He's an Adonis.
Yeah,
for Christ's sake.
Look at him, for God's sake. You'd be lucky to have him. It's crazy. So
look at the fucking ass on that bitch you got washing your car. Yeah, I know.
Oh, I know.
It's my daughter.
Look at her. I know. I told her smaller bathing suit, and that's how you do it. I was right. So for 3 summers, he attended the 5-star basketball camps for elite players. He said they're comparable to the Nike basketball camps and Adidas Phenom America camps held today. I don't know if that's true or not.
Probably not.
But we'll see. So he said more than once, I was asked if I played football because he looked like a football player. If you look at him, he looks just like a football player. But he said that he didn't. He said high school football was all, he said it looked like it was all hanging out and killing time. That's all. Well, only reason he played football was to play basketball, kill time before basketball. His coach, though, he said, believing that I had unlimited potential, is what his coach said. It was his football coach. Because of my athletic ability, I played tailback, fullback, tight end, linebacker, offensive guard, defensive end, and on special teams. I went both ways and did well in almost every position. You can't say that sentence.
No, you can't.
You can't. You can say those sentences separately with a sentence in between them, but you can't say, I went both ways and did well in almost every position. What are you thinking when you say that?
It's hot as shit.
We can't. That's what I mean. You can't. No one hears that and doesn't go, "Oh, come on." You know what I mean? Like, that's just. It's just. No, I don't care who you are, how mature you are. When you hear that, it's
that's
just
a
too
dude
much.
Sitting on your face while a chick rides you and they're kissing up top.
Yeah. Well, he went both ways, not them, though.
And he's doing great.
Yeah. He said, "I like guys, girls, doesn't matter. And you could bend me over, I'll bend you over. I'm fucking flexible."
Tag me, I don't care.
Wow. And playing.
Tag me, you won't.
You won't. Yeah. So.
I'm just daring them.
Daring them. I dare you. He said that he did well in his senior year.
Yeah.
He said all the college coaches were taking notice, and they do, as we'll find out. He said by the end of the season, he's up to 235 pounds, and he's running the 40 in 4.6.
Okay.
Which we find out is probably true because later on he's a
Really?
little heavier and his official time at an actual, football thing is 4.7. So
Wow.
if he's 235, doing a 4.6 sounds about right. He said schools had interest in him for football and continued to pursue him. He went on recruiting trips and all that kind of shit. He said he had a torn ligament in the thumb of his shooting hand during a passing drill right before Christmas, and he couldn't play basketball. So that's when he was doing all of his football recruiting trips here. He narrows his schools down to 5. Okay.
Yeah.
Penn State.
Oh, boy.
Boston College.
Yeah.
Wake Forest. The Naval Academy at Annapolis.
Yeah.
And University of Miami.
Heard of every one of them.
These are all major schools,
Wow,
and they're
yeah.
very different. The Naval Academy and the University of Miami couldn't be more different. That's like saying I'm going to Neptune or Mercury. I can't decide. Depends on if I have a jacket clean. Like, you know what I mean? It's fucking insane. Those are very different. So he said that he was treated great everywhere, and everybody had nice options to go. But Penn State was the one he said he liked the Naval Academy because he wanted to be a Navy pilot, possibly. So he said maybe I could do that and then be a commercial pilot after that. His dad wanted him to go to Annapolis, which, I mean, there's a lot of like, pageantry and all that shit there, and like the uniforms, and it's an impressive thing. So
It's where you would think a guy that plays piano would want his kid to go.
no, exactly. And he said Miami, great weather. He's from Buffalo, so that's why Jim Kelly played in Miami, and that's why he didn't want to play in Buffalo originally, is because he's from Pittsburgh, and he was like, I don't want to fucking play in Buffalo. I'm from Pittsburgh. No,
I've been there.
Yeah,
it sucks.
Don't want to play there. Sorry, I want to play somewhere else. So he said that they all wanted that, but he ended up choosing Penn State here in the end. Joe Paterno at the time, so he said, quote, I could definitely get a party started. Even though I was underage, getting beer was never a problem because my physical size fooled everyone. He's fucking 240 of solid muscle, so everyone thinks he's at least older. He said he'd drive to the local Kmart and pick up a six-pack without being asked to show his ID. As he checked out, the cashier would often ask, what position do you play? And he'd say linebacker. He'd wear his Bills T-shirt and pants, so they'd think he was on the Bills. That was his.
Oh, smart.
That was his goal. Yeah, he's like, if I'm on the Bills, I'm obviously
old enough.
And he said that that impressed his friends too. He said, quote, we never drank to get drunk, just 2 or 3 beers each to get a little buzz. When we were really bored, we'd add some shooters like Bacardi 151 Blue Flamers, light them up and drink them. And
what? We'll have maybe 3 beers, but
then we're gonna.
If we want to get a little drunk, we'll fucking hammer the most aggressive thing on earth.
Then we're gonna drink grain alcohol. We won't feel like getting a little tipsy.
If we're trying to shit our pants, that's the level of buzz we go from smile or shit our pants.
One or the two, either one. Yeah, just a happy, fun buzz. Hey, what's going on? How's it?
Puke in the gutter.
Did you end up hooking up with that chick? From that to fucking, I didn't fucking say. I didn't punch your mom. Okay, I swear, I didn't do it. She had a black eye when I got here. It's a very different thing.
But she didn't call me Adonis. I'll fuck her.
Yeah, I'm still going to talk to her later. It's okay. So he said in March of his senior year, following this is, I believe, in Buffalo here in his senior year of high school, he said following an unusual ice storm that knocked out all the power, he said that in one particular neighborhood, residents would compete against each other for the nicest mailbox. They had these handmade wooden mailboxes, and they all had them.
Okay.
He said, so while all the power was out, he and his friends decided that it would be a good time to take a sledgehammer and axes and bash and destroy as many of these mailboxes as possible.
Oh, you asshole.
So they would do this, and they said they would do this kind of shit all the time. They do like break car windows and do graffiti and shit like that.
Yeah.
They're just being shitheads. He said that his parents were out of town during this time, so some of his teammates from the football team came with him and, to carry the sledgehammers. So he said with the headlights off, they went for a joyride in his dad's car, which is never a good idea, drinking and driving and swinging sledgehammers out of the window.
Yeah.
So it's dazed and confused, essentially, is what's going on here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They called that something. My friends used to do that. Is it box bashing? Is that what it is?
I don't know what the name of it is. I don't know.
There was something.
I only knew one guy who did that. He had a 72 Duster with holes in the floor that I've talked about on the show before, and he used to just swerve and take me out. He'd just be driving, and he'd go plink, and then he'd just keep driving.
No need for a badge.
Where'd that come from? No, he just used his car because it was a piece of shit, and he didn't care. It's like, you just got to try not to hit the headlight because those are fucking like $20, and he'd keep driving. He was an idiot. So anyway, he said that, this was the idea, and they're going to do it, and he said, though, they pull up to, he said they fucked up dozens of them, and they pulled up to the last one. And it was somebody they went to school with, and she was in the car with her boyfriend making out in the driveway. And she saw them do it, and she ran inside and told her parents, and they called the cops.
Oh, you rat.
So they got pulled over in a few minutes, and he said that it was a big story because it involved him and two other outstanding players on the team. So it was like a big story locally and all that kind of shit. So he said it was the first actual arrest for all of them, and they were fined and given 9 o'clock curfews legally. If they broke curfew, they were going to jail, it said. So, it didn't really affect anything in college. Back then, something like that, they go, oh, but he was hanging out with his teammates, right? Oh, well, boys will be boys.
That's team building.
That's what they'd look at it as. At least he was with his teammates.
Yeah.
At least he wasn't like with some schmuck, some schmuck potheads from the campus. You know what I mean? He was with his teammates. They're just blowing off steam. That's what they do. So he said he went to Penn State, gets there in 76, and he said it's different. Penn State, that's all they care about there in that area is Penn State football. Yeah. So it's really different. He said that it was so like immersed in football. It was just weird for him. He said that he was hanging out when he first got there, and his friend came up and said they met a couple girls, and, you guys want to come hang out. I got a couple of girls here. I need a little help here. So he ends up meeting this woman, Peggy Hall, who's a track star from Unionville, Pennsylvania. She runs track there. Yeah. And they end up hooking up, and they'll end up getting married later on and everything. So
really?
That's how they met. Yeah, just like his parents. They met in school.
College sweethearts.
College sweethearts, baby. So Lex is playing offensive guard at this point, and they said, just try playing nose guard, which is defensive line. Right. So they move him to the defensive line, and he thought that it was easy. He's like, this is great. It's a lot easier to play defensive line than offensive line. Offensive line, you have to remember every play that happens. There's an intricate blocking scheme you have to remember. You might be going right while someone else goes left. There's a lot going on. In defense on the line, it's literally fucking right, left, or up the gut. Like that's all that they're, which way they're going. That's all they tell them to do. Yeah. So he ends up saying that he ends up hurting himself here. He said he turned his head and he saw a huge offensive lineman coming right at him, and he said he went low at his left knee and fucked up his knee. Oh. So he said it was x-rayed, and they said that the his MCL was torn by the hit. So he had a torn,
by a chop block.
Yep, torn MCL. They said to have a wait and see approach, and they didn't know if they were going to. Back then, now they do that arthroscopic. They hook you right up. You're on the field in 2 weeks. Back then, that could be a major issue that'll fuck your whole career up if they do a surgery. Yeah, so they might just wait and see how it heals. And so they never ended up getting surgery for it. He just kind of healed up a little bit. So he's still hanging out with Peggy. He gets a bad case of mono while in college.
Oh, no.
So now he's got a fucked up knee and mono.
Yeah. No. Did Peggy do it, or was he kissing someone else?
I don't know who he was kissing. He might have been kissing the coach, for all I know. To get him and Jerry Sandusky's a coach on that team.
In showers.
I was going to say, if you're a defensive lineman, that means that Jerry Sandusky, the linebackers coach, is definitely standing behind you. So let's just put it that way. We don't know.
He may have gotten mono in practice.
That's what I mean. Anything's possible. So he said he was all fucked up, and Peggy, Peggy took care of him. He had to go to summer school to remain eligible for football. Yeah. So he took classes at Florida Atlantic University in Boca Raton, Florida, because his parents moved down there, and that's where he was going for the summer. So that's where he took the classes to make up for shit. So while he's there, though, he's noticing that Florida's a lot nicer than Western Pennsylvania weather-wise.
Sure is, yeah.
Weather-wise,
in
a little
terms
different.
of weather, yeah.
So he said that while he was there, one of the recruiters from Annapolis had since gotten a job at the University of Miami, and so they got hooked up somehow. And Lex said, do you think maybe Miami here, U of M, or Miami Hurricanes, will be interested in me? And they said, maybe. And so ends up, they wanted him. So he tried to get his girlfriend to transfer there as well, but she was on the track team at Penn State and all this shit, so she didn't want to transfer. So she ended up staying, and they were going to have a long-term relationship, a long distance. There you go.
Yeah.
So, he'd have to transfer immediately. And he said that he told the coaches at Penn State he wanted to be closer to his parents in Florida. He said he knew Paterno was a devoted family man. It's for the children, everybody. Said so.
Something is.
Something's for the children. My linebackers coach, he's for the children. He said that that might help, grease the whole deal. So he said he convinced them to do it, to let him go, basically, so he wouldn't have to sit out a year and all that kind of shit. So anyway, she's not leaving, though, so he's going to have a long-distance relationship. He's like, I'll visit her during Christmas break. He gets down to Miami. Yeah. Okay, things are way different down here.
Sure.
This is pre-'80s Miami football, by the way. The Miami Hurricanes were not a powerhouse until the 80s. Right. In the 70s, they were not even a thought. They were just some garbage program. So there is literally no pressure on these guys. It's not like, hey, we're 10-2 this year. We need to be fucking 11-1. This is ridiculous. None of that shit.
And a beach a mile away.
Yeah. If you beat the rival or come close or have a 500 record, everybody's pretty happy at this point.
Right.
So he said that this is right out of the book. One of the hot spots for students was the quadruple-size swimming pool with the adjacent smoothie bar at the heart of the campus. What the fuck kind of college is this?
Sounds awesome.
That sounds like a resort in a movie where people are sitting there with a pool. That's like a hotel resort. That's not a college.
Quadruple-sized pool.
With a smoothie bar in the middle of campus.
That sounds great.
Girls would wear sarongs over their bikinis to class.
Yeah.
To class.
Yeah.
Gee, wonder why a 19-year-old kid would want to transfer down here. Can't imagine. He said it was surreal, to say the least. He said the focal point was the athletes' cafeteria from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. He said they could go there and get whatever they want to eat, as much as they want.
Is that right?
Yeah, because they're the football team guys. So he said he was in a co-ed dorm, and he said that he's shared a room with another player. Neither of them wanted to go to class. That's stupid.
Sure.
Class.
That sounds awful.
It's Miami. We don't have to go to class.
No, thank you.
He said when he arrived there, he picked up a bundle of books for his classes and never opened them at all. Here's a quote for any Miami football fans here. It was a Miami football tradition not to, quote, break the seal on any textbooks, not even to open them.
I don't want to ruin that crack. Once you crack it, it's no good.
He said, I'm not sure how such a wretched tradition ever began or if it's around anymore today, but it was expected when I attended the U. So there you go. Yeah. That's the type of place, man. What are you, opening a book? Get that out of your hands right now.
Lower the value of that thing.
Jesus, you could sell it as new later on. He said he couldn't worry about school. What are we doing? They had to get certain grades to stay eligible. Yeah. So he started figuring out how to cheat. That's easier. He said that, trying to outwit the professors was a big deal. He said they have devised elaborate creative schemes of cheating that utilize the help of the Hurricane Honeys.
I love that.
Who's a group of female students who would show visiting recruits around campus. So they'd go and go, haha, look how hot all the girls are here. You should come here. And then they'd also do these guys' homework and cheat. Homework. Yeah. Jesus Christ. He said that I often thought that if we had spent half as much time studying as we did preparing ways to cheat, we would have all gotten A's.
That's the truth.
Yeah, that's the thing. This is
Really, with almost anything that you do in your life,
Yeah.
if you just do it, it'll A, look better, it'll turn out better, and it'll be a lot easier and quicker.
Yeah. Besides like Ponzi schemes, there's where you can
Right.
make billions of dollars or something. There's really not a lot of worth it. crimes.
Besides a lot of criminal activity, just doing work will get you paid and better, and it's easier.
It seems a lot fucking easier than doing all of this.
So much less time.
You got to worry about getting caught and then all that. It seems like a lot, but that was like part of the fun, I guess, for him getting around the law here or the rules.
Yeah.
He said on Friday nights, they'd load the cars up with girls and drive to Big Daddy's.
Oh, what's Big Daddy?
He describes it as the local hot spot, and Friday night was drink and drown night.
What?
It was a big draw here. They could drink all they wanted for a certain price.
It's like an all-you-can-drink buffet.
An all-you-can-drink buffet where there's college kids from the University of Miami involved.
That's a problem.
Yeah. He said one night after drinking at Big Daddy's, we started talking about the rich kids at school with their luxury cars that their parents had bought them. He said, quote, they drive around in their Mercedes and BMWs trying to look cool in their Ray-Bans. Let's have a little fun with them, is what he said was going on.
What do you think that price would be? $80
For Ray-Bans? Yeah.
No. I mean, for all-you-can-drink buffet.
It wasn't even. I think it was cheap, too. We're talking, this is probably, they're giving you like Old Crow and fucking, their shittiest, their Meisterbrow keg. And like, this is like unload all the shit inventory of the week that nobody wanted. Let's unload it.
$14.99.
$14.95. And you get chips and peanuts and shit, too, probably. Throw that in there so they don't throw up on the floor.
The piss popcorn.
Yeah, the piss popcorn. Yeah, what does that smell? Is that butter? Yeah. Nope. So he said that they're doing that, and he said they parked down the street from a number of sports cars, grabbed the beer cans they had been drinking, and began stacking them on the hoods. Beer cans.
Mm-hmm. Of people's cars?
Yeah. Then he said, come on, I have a better idea. Follow me. And he said he scrambled up onto the roof of a Mercedes and started jumping up and down.
Oh, you dick.
And he said, a few of my buddies joined me, and with 2 or 3 of us jumping simultaneously, we could stomp the roofs of the cars down to the seats.
I'm sure they could.
So they could. Yeah, have you ever seen like a parade where somebody left a car there and people are on top of it? It's flat. He said, we didn't consider how much destruction we were leaving behind. It was just too much fun. Oh, boy. Yeah. He said, over the next few weeks, we changed the game and started flipping cars on their roofs.
Oh, my God.
It only took us about 15 seconds per car. Wow. When we finally got bored and stopped, we had damaged a half a dozen cars without getting caught. For all the goofing off we did, when football came, we were ready for that. Well, Jesus,
Goofing off?
Goofing off. You're causing hundreds of thousands of dollars in property damage. That's not goofing off.
Goofing off.
Goofing off. Just goofing. New boot goofing.
Just goofing.
He said that he shared an apartment with Jim Burt, actually, who's going to be the Giants for years, and also San Francisco. Jim Burt was the guy who's wore number 64, and the 6 and the 4 would touch on his ribs because he wore the jersey so tight. It would take like 3 people to get the jersey on so nobody could hold him or throw him by his jersey. It was stretched to its last fabric being. Like his chest had no number on it because the 6 and the 4 were in his ribs.
In his armpits.
Yeah, he was famous for that shit. So he said that one night, Jim got into a fight on the phone with his girlfriend from back home. A few weeks into football season here. He said he and Peggy had broken up over the phone, and he was still pissed off about it, too. And then Tony, his other roommate, was also having girl problems. So they're all upset. He said suddenly Jim picked up his brand new TV and hurled it onto the floor, smashing it to pieces.
Awesome.
Oh, my. Tony and I looked at each other for a second, then joined the mayhem.
We started punching it.
We went on a rampage, trashing everything in sight. We ripped out the built-in bookshelves, the bathroom sink, and the toilet. You live here. You live here. In about 3...
Because the woman somewhere else is an asshole?
Yeah, so now I'm not going to have a toilet. Now your girlfriend is making you upset, and you have to shit at the gas station. So now you've doubled your problems, I feel like.
Yeah.
Being sad while shitting in a public restroom is not a good look for anybody. It's just
Can't believe the bitch is making me do this.
Yeah, and then blaming her for it. He said 3 minutes the place was trashed. He said then someone was banging on the door, and he said that Tony, the one guy, ran out of the bedroom window. Jim Burt went and hid in the fucking bathroom. He said, I went to the door and looked through the peephole, and it was the the resident assistant, which I think is the RA there. He says a former football player who identified himself and told me to open the door. He said, I've called the police. He said, so I hopped out the same window Tony had and nearly fell into the guy's arms, the RA. It was dark out, and my size was intimidating enough that he didn't say a word, so I just turned and walked away. That night he stayed at his brother's apartment so he could establish an alibi. So he said then all three of them got called into the coach's office. They had woke the coach up in the middle of the night, the school did, to tell him about this.
Tell him about it.
So he was real fucking pissed. And they even took him over to the apartment to show him the scene of the crime.
Oh, fuck.
And he said, Jim and Tony said, quote, it wasn't us, coach. Somebody else got into our apartment and we weren't there and destroyed it. I was in Fort Lauderdale last night. So they all just said, it wasn't us.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Then he says that something else happened. A week later, his buddy Tony there, he said, I was dressed and ready to go to the team meeting when Tony doused me with a bucket of ice water. Oh, boy. He said he was super pissed off. He didn't have a change of clothes, so he had to skip the meeting and seek revenge, obviously. Said he went to the front desk, said he was Tony, and said he had misplaced his key. And all he has IDs up there. It's all in my room.
That's all they need.
So they gave him a duplicate. He knows his last name. He knows his info, shit like that. So he gets his duplicate key. He said, once inside, I went crazy, spraying shaving cream on the walls and the bed linens and throwing water everywhere. So he just fucked it all up. He said, first thing Monday morning that he and Tony got into the coach's office, and they said, what the hell is wrong with you? First the apartment, now this? He said, you've embarrassed us all. And they were putting all the blame on Tony and saying they were going to suspend him. So he said he jumped in and said how it happened. Lex said that he did it and all that. He said, I thought maybe he'd admire me for standing up, you know what I mean, and taking responsibility. But he said, quote, you're off the team. He was like, what?
No, coach, don't take it out on him. I did it.
Yeah.
Look at me. Responsibility.
You're off the team. Huh?
Get the fuck out of my life.
Wait a sec. I thought you were going to...
but I'm a man. I'm standing up. I'm a stand-up guy.
I thought you were going to take a deep breath, stand up, walk slowly around the desk toward me, look at me sorrowfully, and then put your hand on my shoulder and go, son, it took a lot of guts to say what you just did.
You're our starter.
I respect you right now more than I did before. You're going to be starting at nose tackle from here on out. So now he's out of school. He got kicked out. The class isn't really a thing, so he said that he's not eligible for the NFL. Well, also, you haven't played in games that the NFL would be able to look at you and want you. So that's the other problem you have with the NFL.
Give a shit.
Behind the closed doors of government offices and military compounds, there are hidden stories and buried secrets from the darkest corners of history. From covert experiments pushing the boundaries of science to operations so secretive they were barely whispered about. Each week, on Redacted, Declassified Mysteries, we pull back the curtain on these hidden histories. 100% true and verifiable stories that expose the shadowy underbelly of power. Consider Operation Paperclip, where former Nazi scientists were brought to America after World War II, not as prisoners, but as assets to advance U.S. intelligence during the Cold War. These aren't just old conspiracy theories. They're thoroughly investigated accounts that reveal the uncomfortable truths still shaping our world today. The stories are real. The secrets are shocking. Follow Redacted, Declassified Mysteries on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to Redacted early and ad-free right now on Wondery Plus.
In the 1980s, a rosé swept the country.
Hey, Mike, I really like this White Zinfandel.
Well, good. Now put it down. I'm going to try another one.
White Zin became America's top-selling wine. But most don't know that this sweet drink has a sour history. What began in 1986 with counterfeit bottles.
A big fraud, a multi-million-dollar fraud.
sent investigators chasing one of the most powerful families in the business, the Licciardis. But the closer the feds got to them, the more dangerous things became. It's a story of deceit.
At the time, I was paranoid.
Threats.
You touch my kids, I will kill you.
And murder.
With a .22 caliber bullet to the head.
What started with a scheme to mislabel wine spilled into a blood-soaked battle for succession. Welcome to Bloodvines. You can binge listen to Bloodvines exclusively and ad-free on Wondery Plus. Join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify.
Yeah, he said he wouldn't be eligible for 2 years. Back then, you had to have 4 years before you could go. Mm-hmm. So he said he needed a job. So he said ideally he was looking for something that didn't interfere with his daily workouts. You know, he's going to work out a lot, so jobs can be a thing. He said so there was a Gold's Gym franchise there that he went to nearby, and he wanted to stay close by and be able to work out. He said he ended up working at 2 of the most popular clubs in Fort Lauderdale, Pete and Lenny's and Mr. Pips. They always named after a guy back then. Always some dude, Pete and Lenny. Yeah. Who the fuck are they? Who cares? He said the managers were impressed that I came with experience from a high-end Miami club, the one that Joe Namath frequented, so they both hired me. I began working every night, alternating between the 2 locations, and he said it fit nicely with his time at the gym, and he said he was going to continue his hopes of an NFL berth. You got to play college first, dude.
Yeah, you're going to walk on?
He said at this point he started making friends with drug dealers as well.
Okay.
Because he's in Florida and working at nightclubs, and so that's kind of where they hang out. He said that the drug dealers never had to wait in line. He said they'd greet me saying, how you doing, and slip a $100 bill at a handshake. And he said that was it. And come on in, everybody. So he would let them in. He said that one night, one of the guys asked him if he'd be interested in house-sitting his place for him while this guy was in New York. He said he only came to Florida a few days each month, so would you mind staying at my house? He said, quote, I need someone I can trust to keep an eye on the house. He said, I'll leave the keys to the Lamborghini and the Ferrari and the cigarette boat. You can bring your friends over if you want to. Essentially, my house is yours. You just need to make sure that the cleaning staff is doing what I'm paying them to do. Other than that, my colleagues and I would like you to meet us at the airport when we get back in town. How does that sound? Or how does $1,000 a week sound to stay at my house and party?
And I'll pay you to live there.
And I'll pay you. So he said he did that for a while.
$4,000 a month to make your cleaning people clean your house? I mean, wouldn't it be cheaper just to hire a better cleaning service?
He's probably not paying the cleaning people that much. Just hire really good cleaners, and I bet they'll clean the shit out of that house. Or
$1,000 a week? I'll bet you some lady would love that.
Or the guy who's driving your Ferrari and Lamborghini and fucking college girls in your house, maybe he can clean up after when he's done, getting paid $1,000 a week. How about that? Maybe he can
just get rid of the cleaning service entirely.
Yeah, that's what he should have said. I'm tired of these cleaners. I want you to do it. And that would sound reasonable still.
Just clean your jizz off my drapes and you can drive a Lamborghini.
He said that he's 6 weeks into this whole thing, though. He was loving the arrangement, but he got a phone call from a guy he knew at the University of Miami, an alumni who knew some coaches and scouts for the Montreal Alouettes of the Canadian Football League.
Oh.
So he said that, the guy said, I know you want to play in the NFL, but I mean, this team wants to look at you. Maybe come over there.
So go up there and take a pay cut.
Let's go. Maybe. So, yeah, you're going to definitely, and a fun cut, definitely.
Right.
So he said that the Alouettes mailed him a contract without ever even talking to him or seeing him or anything like that. 2-year deal, $30,000 the first year, $36,000 the second year, plus a couple thousand signing bonus. So,
it's a pay cut.
It's a pay cut. He said that, what was he going to do? He didn't know, but he said he decided that he should do it because that, if he's going to get in the NFL, he should probably be, playing football along the way so teams can know that he exists still. Wasn't there a guy who was injured as a freshman at Penn State 8 years ago? No one's looking at that.
Also, there is a stipulation on the career he has right now of whether or not his boss gets caught for the bad shit he's doing. Mm-hmm. If that guy gets rocked up, then that house gets seized and I'm homeless.
He's quickly. He said he needed to gain weight. He said he always had a fast metabolism and he could eat tons and tons of food.
Oh, fuck you.
He said In my senior year, my voracious appetite earned me the title of class's biggest eater, along with my female counterpart, a petite figure skater. We were featured together in a yearbook photograph that showed us lying in mounds of ice cream sandwiches and bags of potato chips.
Oh.
It was pretty common for me to swing by McDonald's between lunch and dinner, and grab a Big Mac, a filet of fish, a quarter pounder, a large order of fries, an apple pie, and a milkshake. That's his snack.
Jesus Christ.
He said when he went out for pizza, he would order his own large deep dish pan pizza with all the toppings and a pitcher of Coke for him.
That sounds delicious.
For him. He said he had a couple of months before he had to report to the camp here, and he said he's 235, 240, and most of the time at that point, all the offensive linemen were 265 to 285, and then he's going to play an offensive line. So he needs to gain weight quick. How do you do that, Jimmy? For the first time...
cocaine?
That's the opposite effect. For the first time in my life, I considered steroids. So here he comes. He said it wasn't an easy decision. I had taken personal pride in the fact that I had never touched a steroid before and had managed to break records at Miami without them. What records did you break? You didn't play football. What fucking records were you breaking? Highest jump? I mean, what are we talking about? Did they have that from the third grade?
Third grade.
He said that the guy at the gym sold him a bottle of little blue pills. My cock was so hard forever. It was weird. I
didn't gain any weight, but my cock was constantly throbbing.
I'm not really feeling stronger, but man, do I just want to fuck everything that moves for like 3-4 hours at a time. I don't know what it is.
It's crazy. All the muscles going to my cock.
They're strong. They're strong. He said they told him, take 5 pills a day for 8 weeks, eat all the food you can, especially protein, and you'll put on a few pounds. So he said he put on 20 pounds at that point, and quickly, and he said he walked in at 255, which was respectable and all that. He said he was running a 4.6 40, and the coaches were very impressed with that, which they would be if you weighed 255 and you're running 4.6, especially back then. So, he ends up doing pretty well. He said that they kept him on the team here. He played his first game, and then he was hidden on the injured reserve list, he said. Mm-hmm. He said that later on, though, somebody was injured in the playoffs, and he was activated to play in the Super Bowl of the CFL, the Grey Cup game.
Wow.
He said so he was at left offensive tackle, and he said that he did well against a guy there, and he said the whole thing was amazing. It was super surreal. And he loved it. And unfortunately, though, the other team was the Eskimos, who had Warren Moon at quarterback.
Oh.
And he turned out to be pretty goddamn good in the NFL. So you can imagine how good he was in Canada.
Probably pretty damn good.
Yeah, against fucking Lex Luger. So he won. They lost the game 17-9, but he was still doing well. So December 15th, 79, he gets married to Peggy. They get back together again, even after his destruction. Mm-hmm. They get married at Penn State University. He said 1981, it's his third season in Montreal. He said Peggy finished school and all that sort of thing. He said, my job was to eat, train, and then eat and train some more. Okay.
Pretty solid job.
That's a decent job. He said, once again, I also turned to my reliables, Diana Ball and Decca, for my off season. This time for a 12-week cycle. From now on, this is what he always does. The Deca Diana Ball, 12 weeks on, 12 weeks off. That's always what that's like the standard kind of thing. That's what Jose Canseco would tell you to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
12 on, 12 off. So he said that he was starting left tackle for the Alouettes, and then he started getting a neck injury. So the neck injury kind of progressed. And they said that they ended up releasing him on waivers because of his neck injury, saying that when it gets better, they'll re-sign him and get him back. Everything will be fine, he said. But at that point, he said, okay, I guess I'm a free agent. So they moved back to Buffalo, and he was working out with a power lifter who was the Don Reinhold, who's the 1979 World's Strongest Man winner.
Wow.
And he said it was a mentor of his, and he said that somehow through that connection, the Green Bay Packers ended up hearing about him and flying him in for a workout in January of 82.
Wow.
And this is Coach Bart Starr at the time. This is when Bart Starr was coaching.
Is that right?
Absolutely. He said that he was measured and weighed and all that kind of shit. They said they were very impressed with his 40 time. He said they offered him a 2-year deal that paid him $55,000 the first year and $65,000 the second year and $10,000 signing bonus. And they said it told him, if you do well, you're going to make the team, and we'll see what happens here. So they bring him in, and he felt he did great. They signed him up. He said it was his dream. He said, I was definitely aware of the history and legacy when I got there. I didn't even look around at the other teams because I understood and was excited to have an opportunity to play for the Green Bay Packers.
Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah. Especially if you grew up in the 60s, you just watched them win championships your whole childhood. 58, he was born. From the time he was 5 on, they're just dominating football for the next little while. He said he entered training camp confident. And he said, though, but he was moving to guard, so he was a little nervous, but he thinks he could do it. And he's ready to go. And he said, quote, this is one of the coaches here, our right tackle, Greg Koch. He said he showed up at camp looking like he did for wrestling. He said, this guy was chiseled. He looked more like a bodybuilder. He was just an impressive athlete, though. He could run like a 4.7 40. He was just big and impressive. So that's some other guy who's on the team. Like he said he runs a 4.7 40. That's no shit at 260 of muscle. That's pretty impressive. And
how did he not play football?
The guy said we got to be friends because we worked out a lot together, and he's just an all-around good guy. So he said that he had a great time. He said he didn't even there wasn't tons of hazing or anything like that, just having to sing your college fight songs and all that bullshit.
Stupid. Yeah.
A lot of NFL training camp. You sing a song. That's all it is. They make people sing songs to show that you'll do it. So he hurt his hip flexor and groin muscle in training camp on July 1st, which is the fucking beginning of training camp.
Yeah.
He said that every time he thought he was ready to come in, if he was better, he would re-injure himself. So the team said they placed him on injured reserve in 1982, and he said he would lift weights and all that sort of thing. One of his coaches said, I wish you played football as seriously as you work out. So the Packers ended up releasing him. So he ends up in the USFL in 1983.
Is that right?
Do you have any idea that Lex Luger played this much football?
He played it for everybody.
Everybody. Yeah, he plays for multiple teams here, by the way. Tampa's his main team, but he also has a spot at Jacksonville for a second. He bounces all around. He said the Tampa Bay Bandits owned his USFL rights because they used to do regional rights, and he played at Miami. So
got it.
They owned him. So Tampa, he thought, well, shit, I like Florida. Sounds good. He said that I told Coach Starr, Bart Starr there, that I appreciated the opportunity the Packers had given me, but I didn't think things were working out how everyone had planned. No, you didn't tell the Packers it's not working out. They cut you.
Green Bay Packers, he resigned.
Yeah, it's like it's just not working out. And, we should see other people. I'm going to see someone down in Tampa. And
I'm going to go play in the USFL.
Yep. He said he and Peggy bought their first house, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, nice little thing. He took a little bit of a pay cut to go down there, but that's okay. Then he got traded 4 games into the season after he bought a house and got settled. They
God damn it.
Traded him to Memphis, and so he was like, shit. And then halfway through the season, he fucked up his ribs, and so they replaced him, and then he ended up on Jacksonville after that. Okay. So in one season, he ended up on 3 different teams back in Florida. So he's in Florida now and kind of washed out of football at this point.
Yeah.
So he starts looking around. Now, wrestling is huge in Florida.
Oh, it's the biggest.
Championship wrestling from Florida, CWF, is a big deal. Eddie Graham had built up this very good circuit down there that was excellent. So this is the time. Eddie Graham kills himself in 85. So this is right now when this is going on. This is all happening. He says he was never a wrestling fan, ever.
Really?
He said that he remembers running around his grandparents' house like on a weekend, on the weekends, and he said that his grandfather would be fixated watching wrestling on TV, and he said we'd be running around. I'd stop by now and then just to kind of look at it, see what had Grandpa's attention so much, and it just never caught my attention. Never paid attention.
I gotta go.
But he said this is 85, so WrestleMania just happened, which was Mr. T and Hulk Hogan hosted Saturday Night Live. Like that's how Fucking big that was.
Big deal.
On every talk show, Hulk Hogan was on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
Yeah.
Sports Illustrated.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's big. And he said, fuck, maybe I could do that. All these guys look like me. I look as good as them. So he said that he stopped by the office of Championship Wrestling from Florida a few times. The doors were locked. He said on his fourth visit, a guy opened the door and invited him and took a look at him and said, come on, you look like a wrestler. You must be from somewhere.
Are you a wrestler?
Yeah.
Come in.
So he said, I introduced myself. Now, if you know how the wrestling business works, it's very insular. It's much like the comedy business.
Yeah.
If a stranger walks up to one of us on the streets after a show and says, hey, I'm looking to do that. I'd like to perform for 1,000 people in a theater. How do I do that? I'd like to just.
I'm sure you would. I'm sure you'd love that.
How do I do that? We'd be like, Jesus Christ. Is this a career option for me? We'd be like, what? Yeah, I don't know. That's crazy. This is the equivalent of what he did. And
We're very lucky to do what we do. That's the answer.
That's the answer, exactly. If he, this way, if he didn't look like he did, they would have kicked him in the ass out of the place. But the way he looks, it doesn't matter how stupid he is. So he said, quote, I'm Larry Pfohl. I'm a pro football player, but I'm looking for some off-season work. I've been seeing and hearing a lot about WrestleMania, which, by the way, you have nothing to do with as Championship Wrestling from Florida, not the other company. He said, but I don't know much about the pro wrestling industry or how do you get into it. Is there someone I could talk to about a possible career option?
Is the HR department around?
That's what he did. This isn't you could probably do that in WWE now. They probably have an HR. I know they have HR department and all that. Championship Wrestling from Florida is like some little back office with. It's not like that at all. There's no HR department. So they end up. Hiro Matsuda says that he'll talk to him, and he goes. And Hiro Matsuda owns a garment factory or some shit. And he goes, that's where the workouts were. Was in his garment factory.
Wow.
And it was no air conditioning in the summer heat in Florida.
You got to earn it.
Well, Matsuda is one of the top trainers of all time. Matsuda trained Hulk Hogan. Matsuda trained Paul Orndorff. Matsuda trained tons of people. When you talk about guys, lineage of guys who came from where, two trainers are big, Vern Gagne and Hiro Matsuda. Those are because one's Flair, one's Hogan, one's, you know what I mean? Those are the big ones. But Matsuda's guys are always stars. Not always. I'm sure he's trained some mid-level guys, but he's trained.
There's some bums in there.
He's trained a lot of stars. He's famous for, Hogan always says that the first time he went in, Matsuda snapped his leg to see if he would come back, and then he came back and he trained him. So Matsuda here, they said that they would run and run and run like crazy. They'd run 5 miles to start out. That's what they'd do. And then they'd get back and do 10 sets of 30 push-ups. Oh. That's 300 push-ups. He said, though, Matsuda did everything with him, and he's an older guy.
Really?
He's been doing this forever, so yeah.
He's running and doing push-ups, too.
Yeah, absolutely. He said he only counted the ones that where your chest hit the ground, too. Otherwise, they didn't count.
Oh, Jesus.
And he said that. And the goal was 10 minutes or less, too. He said 2 push-ups per second is the goal, which I don't know how you do that. That seems really difficult.
That doesn't make any sense.
No, maybe 1 push-up per 2 seconds, but I don't know. He said, though, that's what he had to do. It had to do 2 months of this conditioning, these Hindu squats that they do, they're called back then, these crazy exercise. He had to do 2 months of training before Matsuda would make you pass his conditioning test before he would teach you anything about wrestling. They haven't even mentioned wrestling. This is all just all conditioning for months. So
this is to see if you'll break.
Yeah. Finally, he said he passed the test after a couple months because he was in good condition. So he said that the wrestling part of it, here's the steps from Hiro Matsuda. If you wanted to be a wrestler in the 80s, here you go. Step 1, getting in and out of the ring. Mm-hmm. You don't think about that. But
no, it seems like it's tough to do.
Stepping up,
there's
ropes.
Yeah.
You can't look like, you can't look goofy.
Right.
You have to have a certain thing. Or Macho Man would put his 2 hands on the second rope and hop through the ropes. Remember? He'd just do that little hop thing, and it was very distinctive. Or he'd do the thing where he'd bounce over the top rope with it. But they were very distinctive entrances. Jake the Snake would slide under the bottom rope like a snake.
Yeah.
You know, guys had different things. Andre and Big John Studd would step over the ropes.
Right.
So and some guys, the audience. Getting into the ring is like grabbing the microphone out of the stand in comedy.
Sure.
You can tell immediately if that comic doesn't know what the fuck they're doing.
Absolutely.
By how they grab that mic. If they're like concentrated on it.
Yeah.
The comic should be looking, the mic stand should be like you are when you're driving. You're not staring at your steering wheel.
No.
You're looking as far ahead as you can. That's what you're looking into the audience, and you should be able to just grab that. If you see a comic kind of not look like that,
or look at the back of the mic stand.
Yeah. If their first struggle is the mic stand, you're in a bad fucking time. And that's what wrestling is too. You have to look like you know how to get in and out of the ring smoothly. Next thing up is hitting the ropes. Now, again, that looks easy, but it's not. Those fucking ropes hurt. And
as a kid, you assume that they're made out of rubber bands. You know what I mean?
No.
They fling off of them.
WWF has real ropes. And all the other Southern ones had fucking cables with rubber all over them, metal cables with rubber over them. So very different.
That's wild that can still fling somebody.
And I had access to a ring as a kid. I learned how to do that, run the ropes like that. It fucks your goddamn rib cage up bad.
I'm
your
sure.
back gets all bruised. So he said I was black and blue from my lats to my thighs from hitting hundreds and hundreds of times on the ropes because he'd make you do it hundreds of times.
Oh, God.
Because you look goofy if you like run up to the ropes, then stop and lean in. You look like a goofball. You have to be able to take the 2 steps smooth into the ropes and bounce off smooth, or else it doesn't look fucking fluid. He said then hitting the ropes, jumping up and landing on your back. He said this is an exercise to simulate a body slam. You had to jump high, or the guy would make you repeat it. Do it again. You have to go bounce off the ropes and then act like you're being body slammed and land on your back. So, taking a flat back bump. That's all it is.
Holy
it's just
shit.
Flat back bump. See, can you keep your fucking chin tucked and not knock yourself out when you fall down every time? That's all. He said number 4 was the turnbuckle, which is in the corner there.
Ouch.
He said that was to run into the turnbuckle and, hit the turnbuckle hard with your back and, get a good pop out of it so that you could hear it. And then from there, bounce back out so then the guy could do something to you. That was the... He's teaching you how to bump and feed at this point, which is when this would be feeding and the other would be bumping, but not putting the two together at this moment. But I guess it would be you hit the fucking, that's a bump hitting the turnbuckle if you want to be real ticky-tacky about it, and then feeding into the guy doing something else to you. Because the training is always teaching a guy how to lose, not win, because at first they're going to need to know to do that.
The idea of winning, it seems like the point of wrestling, but a guy's got to lose too, and the loser is the one that's selling the match.
Yeah, well, if it's absolutely, especially if the loser's the heel, he probably back in those days he led the match. All whatever happened in the match was his fucking idea, and the match is only important because they want to see him get his ass kicked.
Right.
So that's the way that works. He said number 5 was body slamming. And he said Matsuda his philosophy was you had to learn how to take bumps before you could learn how to dole any out. You have to know what it feels like. That's like they make the cops get tased before they are allowed to carry tasers type of thing.
That makes sense. Yeah.
It's one of those. So, and it teaches you the correct way to land and all that shit. And step 6, testosterone and DECA, 12 weeks on, 12 weeks off for Lex.
Also, all this awful shit.
All this awful shit. They're talking about him like he's not even there, they said, the bookers and shit, like, oh, well, what are we going to call this fucking guy? And we'll call him this or that. They said, where are you from? Buffalo? They're like, the people down here don't even know where the fuck Buffalo is in Florida. Blah, 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 blah. You're from Chicago now. There you go, Chicago.
What's the closest big city?
There you go. They said Detroit or Chicago, and then the one guy goes, Chicago. So... Then they're trying to come up with a name, and he says he came up with his name, Lex Luger. He said that very simply,
Superman. Yeah.
No, Magnum PI was on at the time. It was 1985, and that was the biggest thing in the world was Magnum PI, and Magnum is a gun. Thomas Magnum. So he said that's cool with a gun last name. So I picked another gun last name, Luger. And he said Lex came from Superman comics. He liked Lex Luthor.
Of course it did. Yep.
So there you go, Lex Luger. Perfect.
Not bad.
And they were like, all right, sounds good. It's got alliteration. Why not? I doubt Southern wrestling people said, it's got alliteration. I like it. So
they said, it's 2 L's.
It's 2 L's. Those are both L's. Good. So actually, Eddie Graham was pretty smart, but I think he was dead by now. So, where? 85, Halloween 85 is his first match. Did Eddie Graham kill himself in November? When the fuck did that happen now? God damn it. That's a big deal.
Do you need a Google?
Google Eddie Graham, Florida Wrestling, and just see what the date of his death is, because...
Is it IE?
I think it's,
Graham
IE.
like the cracker?
Graham like the cracker. Graham.
Okay. Wrestling. Graham, yep. Wrestler.
There you go.
Wrestling.
His son Mike, too, is in there. Yeah. He's the...
Yeah, he died January 21st, 85.
Okay, so he's been dead this whole year, and they're running it. It's being ran by some other people. I know Kevin Sullivan was trying to help, and Mike Graham was involved in this. So that's what I wanted to know. Is Eddie Graham here or not?
God, he's so scary looking.
Eddie Graham was a very scary man. A very smart and frightening individual. He was a badass.
He looks like the guy that played Frankenstein in Young Frankenstein, but more like Frankenstein.
He's one of those old-timey wrestlers that, like, if he got mad at his son's Little League game, he beat up all the fathers. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
and the kids.
I had to beat up 14 fucking guys. He's breaking my balls. And then he would go to, like, take the kid to McDonald's afterwards because it wouldn't be that big of a deal for him. So his first match was around Halloween of 85, Lex's. Mm-hmm. And when I say his first match, I mean not his first match performed, the first time he's ever been to a wrestling show.
Ever.
The first time he's ever watched wrestling is in a fucking match he's participating in. Now, if you've watched Lex Luger over the years, this is what I'll say about Lex Luger. He looks amazing.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. That's the end of it. That's about Lex Luger and wrestling. He looks great. He looks like a fucking Adonis. I mean, the guy looks like you fucking literally chiseled him from stone. There's not an ounce of fat on him. Everything's jacked. He's fucking looks perfect. But when he gets in the ring, he's a little bit stiff because he's so fucking jacked, and he's just not the greatest worker. He's just not. You can watch his matches. There's watch some of his I think if you look up like Lex Luger like wrestle crap, you'll find that'll have like his lowest points. But there's some things where like part of like how he acts like he's being hurt here, part of how he sells is he just yells a lot. He'll hit him and he'll just be like, "Ah!" Like it's just this weird Lex Luger yell, or you're like, what are you doing? He's just goofy. He's
loud.
He's just goofy. He's a very goofy worker. And
maybe he's selling bullshit because he can't. You know what I mean? Like when the loudest people that are fakers, being loud distracts you from the fact that they're not good at whatever it is that they've got.
That's a good point. That's a very good point, and I think that's part of it. Maybe that's how he thinks to do it. If I just go rather than show it on my face and be
distracts from the movement.
Be an actor. So the problem is can you imagine? We always say wrestling and comedy, very similar. Okay. Can you imagine a comedian doing his first show in front of a paid audience,
right?
And he's never even watched a stand-up comedy show before. He or she has never been to a comedy fucking show before.
Yeah.
And they're going to go up on stage now.
And they're going to do it.
How good do you think that comic's going to be?
They're going to destroy.
They are going to be
wrong reason.
They're going to be telling knock jokes and fucking shit like that. It's going to be a disaster, and they have such a hole to dig out of that I don't know how they would ever get good at it. They would have to have such an incredible natural talent inside of them that has been not tapped, that it's ridiculous for that to make any sense. It's the same thing with wrestling. The guys who were not fans when they were kids, who didn't come up loving it and being interested in it and pretending to do it with their friends in the living room and all that, if you weren't doing that, you're not going to be a good wrestler. You're not. You can be successful if you look like Lex Luger, but you're not going to be a good wrestler. You're not going to be... all the good guys are second generation or guys who loved the business.
Yeah.
They grew up
being in love with it is a big deal. The passion.
Yeah, they grew up loving it. I fucking loved it. I went to the matches when I was a kid. I liked it. I went here. I went there. The guys who didn't, the guys who looked at it like a business in the ring, you could tell they looked at it like a business. Kevin Nash looked at it like a business, and that's exactly what it was to him. Lex Luger, same thing. There's no passion there. There isn't. No. There just fucking isn't. I'm sorry. It's just not a passion, and you can see it. Whereas you get a guy
6'7" and worth it.
Yeah, that's it. Look at me. I'm amazing. Whereas a guy like Scott Hall's a different story. He was a fan, and he dug it, and he was into it and thought it was cool, and it showed in his fucking shit. Shawn Michaels was just to use the whole clique there. He was a great fucking worker because he was a big fan. He loved it.
Yeah,
it was that. So I mean, that's how it goes. Now, in his first, one of his first couple months, he has a cage match with Bruiser Brody. Now,
oh no!
If you don't know who Bruiser Brody is, there's the Vice documentary on his killing. Bruiser Brody, beloved guy in the business, very well known. Everybody knows and likes him, but the problem with him is in the fucking ring, there's no fucking around with Bruiser Brody.
Yeah.
He's what they call stiff, which means that shit's real. Like it fucking hurts. It hurts. He's not punching you in the nose or the teeth, but if he's hitting you in the head, he's fucking hitting you in the head. Period. You got to be able to take it. And the thing with Brody is you got to be able to fight back with him. If you don't fight back, he's just going to eat you up and take the whole match, because why would he act like he's being hurt by you if you can't even fight back? You know what I mean? And that's what he would say. Your character is not going to make my character look like a bitch, basically. That's the long and short of it.
Yeah.
So new guys were very, very frightened of Bruiser Brody. Not only is he a veteran and a guy who's known as a stiff guy, but Bruiser's a fucking enormous person. He's 6'6".
He's huge, yeah.
He's 6'6". He's 285. He's got crazy long, bushy hair, a big fucking beard. He makes his eye go cross, his one eye. He's got big fur things on his boots. And the way he walks out is like you've released a man from a cave and he's walking toward dinner. Like, that's it.
For the first,
He's like,
starving.
He's yelling, hush, 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 yelling shit. People are, in Japan, he would go like at the crowd and they would scatter. They'd fucking run away like
going
ants.
into the stands and such, and they'd all move around, move away from him. Jesus Christ, look at it.
He's a frightening man. Nobody would be like, I'm going to go fight that guy. Like, nobody. Yeah. He's a fucking, looks like the guy you would never fight unless you had many guns. In case this one misfires, I need to have another.
He looks like a mental hospital just opened its door.
And they let the biggest guy out first.
Right.
He pushed to the front of the line. Let me out of here.
He killed everybody inside the mental hospital and broke out. That's what he looks like.
King of the mental hospital hill is all.
He looks psychotic.
He comes out, they're like, anyone coming behind you? They're all gone. And he keeps going.
Who would be coming out?
Who's left? So Lex doesn't really know the business that well. And the other thing about Lex at this point, by the way, is everybody says he's very disrespectful to other workers in terms of not so much in the ring, but outside the ring. He makes everybody feel like they're inferior to him.
Oh.
Look at me, I'm better. Well, obviously, he'd say things like, well, a Lex Luger would do this sort of thing.
Gross.
And he's not even like, he's been doing it a year. Like, he's not, 6 months. These guys, before they get a shot like he gets, he got thrust into like a main event situation when he never wrestled before. It takes guys. Roddy Piper was wrestling for 9 years before he was a main event outside of Portland. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, this is crazy.
This is the equivalent of somebody doing 12 open mics and moving to L.A.
You're moving to
LA. And then having an attitude about it.
Yeah. And then and actually getting a job on a fucking show or something. Like, that's what it is. Because but he looks so good. He's the example whenever they say a guy looks so good and they thrust him in. They use Lex Luger as the example of like, looks great, don't care if he can work. Thrust him in there. And Florida was in big trouble. Eddie Graham died, and it was just a fucking mess down there. Dusty Rhodes had left and all this shit. So it was a disaster that they were trying to rebuild quickly. So they were just trying to get new talent. Vince McMahon was taking all their fucking talent away that they had. Bastard. So, I mean, it was on fire down there, basically. So they were like, that guy looks great. Throw him in the ring. Great. And it worked because he was on the cover of wrestling magazines because he looked like $1 million. So anyway, in this cage match with Brody, Lex gets in first. Then here comes Brody. He gets in the cage. They lock the door behind him because it's a fucking cage match. And I guess what happened was apparently Lex charges at him and pushes him in the corner or whatever and starts like hitting him. But he's not hitting, apparently, Bruiser the way Bruiser needs to be hit to sell it. You got to fucking lay him on. He'll hit you hard, but he expects you to hit him hard, too. Otherwise, he's not going to sell your bullshit because it looks weak. So why would he act like a weak punch hurt him? That's his thing. I'm a strong guy. So he wasn't selling shit, apparently. He wouldn't sell for Lex, and Lex got fucking scared and thought that Bruiser was going to beat him up for real. So he climbed the cage and ran back to the dressing room and left Brody in the ring in the fucking cage by himself. He ran away. He got
a fake match.
He got back to the fucking dressing room going, that guy's fucking crazy, man. He's out of his fucking mind. I'm not going back out there with that far. Are you fucking crazy? Put me in the ring with that psychopath. This is fucking ridiculous. They're like, Frank? That's Frank. Frank Goodish is his real name. They're like, you should have worked with him. Like, what are you doing?
He's great at this.
He's the best. That's why he's here, asshole. So that was pretty funny, I thought, that whole story. That's a big one in the wrestling business, the time Lex Luger ran away out of the cage. It's never been done before. No one's ever climbed the cage and ran away and didn't come back. It's never happened. It's awesome. But that's how little he knew about wrestling, though.
Right.
That's how inexperienced. And it's really not his fault. Mm-hmm. When you throw a guy into like a main event situation that has no business even being an opener, skill wise,
you're throwing him to the wolves and then expecting that a physical fight or fake or not, the athleticism that he has to pull off and sell while maintaining a healthy, not really fear for his own safety. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's got to feel comfortable at the same time as selling that shit, and he wasn't comfortable. He was scared.
He's scared fucking shitless.
Yeah.
This is the equivalent of a comic having a 30-second TikTok that's popular, and then they're like, you're going to do an hour and
now.
You do like an hour 5 every night. Yeah, make sure it's an hour 5 because we got to do check drop and shit. You're dead. That's what you are. He's fucking dead.
Get out there and tour.
Get out there and get on tour.
We got agents whose house payments require you to
Come on, hustle up. So New Year's Eve, 1985. This is going into 86. He has he and his wife have a son named Brian. So now he's got a son here.
Yeah.
Son is born. Didn't name him Lawrence, so that's good. He said that his money started to rise as his status did in wrestling. He said about $1,000 to $1,500 a week he started making.
Hey,
not bad down in Florida in the 80s. He said
better than house sitting.
That's much better. It's legal anyway. Yeah. So he said he was starting to get noticed by the other territories. Everybody noticed him immediately. Who the fuck is that guy? I mean, he stands out like you can't even believe. So Jim Crockett really liked him, and especially Dusty really wanted to steal him from Florida, is what it was. And Dusty Rhodes I'm talking about. And that's where NWA, that was the kind of the heart of the NWA at that point, was Crockett's territory. He had Ric Flair was his guy. He's the champ, the whole deal. They're doing Starrcade and everything. So it's a big deal here, which is their equivalent of WrestleMania. So in 1986, he is named Rookie of the Year by Pro Wrestling Illustrated. So right? Look at him. Yeah, and he's on the cover of a ton of magazines that year, too. He's big. So he ends up being stolen. He goes up to the Carolinas to work for Crockett. And this is where his finishing move, the torture rack, comes from. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
John is back.
Rack him. Yep.
Yeah, rack him up.
Yep.
So the torture rack comes, and they were trying to work on a finishing move for him. And somebody said, how about like a backbreaker thing? That way you could show off his strength and all that. And
basically flexing.
Yeah. So that's what it is. It's look at your arms and everything, your biceps. So he said that the point was that he'd slam his opponent, then flex his upper body to show that he's going to do it, and that was it. He'd come up behind, grab him, lift him up, and he'd go bounces up and down, and that's called the torture rack. And he said, Dusty Rhodes said, that's it. We all loved it. That's your finish. That's it. This was 5 minutes before a show. So
now go do that.
Do that in front of people and on television. Yeah. So he becomes very popular again, especially in NWA. Nobody really looked like him. They just didn't. So it's at this moment where the Four Horsemen, you may have heard of at the time, being Ric Flair, Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson, and Ole Anderson at the time. So Ole Anderson at this point wanted to step back some. And his son was a high school wrestler, and he wanted to go to all of his meets and do all of that.
Yeah.
So
good dad.
Yeah, you can't really do that. So basically, Ole kind of took a step back, and they needed a new horseman. Oh. And they decided that Lex would be the perfect guy because he's so different than all the other guys. You know what I mean? Sure. And he looks great and all that. And he said they told him, Dusty said, you need to show a little more swag in front of the cameras, kind of bravado that makes the Horsemen the most loved and hated group. Confidence. You need confidence. Confidence, Lex Luger. You know what I'm saying? You need confidence. This is Dusty there.
The thin line between arrogance and confidence.
He said, let everybody know that you have the brains, the brawn, and the professional football pedigree. You're the total package, Lex Luger. That's you. He said it with his lisp. That's you, Lex. Yeah. Total package. So he said everybody loved it. Total package with a torture rack. Boom. One thing he needs, though, his ring gear was he wore black tights and a white tank top to the ring.
Oh.
They said, no tank top. Hulk Hogan has a tank top, and you're like a smaller Hulk Hogan. He's 6'4". He's huge, 6'4", 260, but Hulk's 6'6", 6'7", fucking 300. So you just look like a tinier Hulk now. So they had to come up with something. They said, something classy. So he looked around. Ric Flair is the king of these robes.
Right.
So he shelled out $5,000 on a robe.
Oh, my God. Is that what those cost?
Absolutely. Some of Flair's cost 10.
Holy fuck, man.
Whenever you see one of those robes with the rhinestones all over them, that's at least a $3,500 robe in the 80s. In 80s money, we're talking. So way more now. Those are so expensive. And the guys had to buy those for themselves. That was you were investing in your own self to
your brand,
get over better. So he and his wife there, they moved to Charlotte. And while they're doing this, the Horsemen, this was good for him because he needed to learn shit.
Yeah.
And the Horsemen are all great workers. I mean, Arn, Tully, Ric Flair, those are three of the best in-ring workers you can imagine. Especially like Arn and Tully, those are guys where you don't look at them and go, oh, pro wrestlers. Right. Look at how big and muscular they are. Like their movements and attitude have to get it over for them. And they do. So that tells you how good they are at it, you know? So it's a big deal. He said he would come up with an idea once in a while and Arn would shout, shut up, eggplant.
What does that mean?
Don't know. Just you have the brains of an eggplant. Apparently, you're just nothing. You're just a vegetable. It was, I think, the connotation here.
Okay.
He said, "You just stand there and look good, and let me do the thinking." He said that Arn also teased him about the size of his teeth because he had kind of horsey-ish teeth.
Yeah.
He said he would go Wilbur and fucking make fun of him and call him Mr. Ed and all that kind of shit. Call him Eggplant or Wilbur all the time. Those were his two names. He said that I laughed at and answered to both. You had to. Those are the veterans. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And he said he could break balls back. That's fine. He said then at one point he's returning from a wrestling event in Vegas, and he was at a gym somewhere and randomly bumped into Vince McMahon.
Oh.
Vince McMahon's cock immediately became so hard that the loss of blood from his brain caused him to pass out on the floor when he saw Lex Luger. He loves Lex Luger from this point. I mean, he's the guy that everybody said that this is where the line of look at him, look how vascular he is.
Yeah.
That's where it came from. Lex Luger. When he met Lex, he goes, he's just so vascular. Look at him. He goes, his genetics are perfect. He's got perfect genetics. Look at him. Oh, God. And he just comes.
Do you think he accidentally was there, or he heard about him and showed up there?
Come on,
right?
man. You think anything's an accident with Vince?
There's no way he accidentally popped into the same gym.
Absolutely not. Especially because this was the time he was trying to take everybody from Crockett. He had offered Flair contracts, even tried to take the Midnight Express. He was just trying to hurt Crockett, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So he said that he met Vince, and he said that they exchanged pleasantries and talked for about 5 minutes about our families. He said wrestling was never brought up, which is exactly how Vince would do it if he met you somewhere by accident, too.
Because he already knows that you wrestle. We don't need to talk about it.
Didn't even bring it up. He said, he didn't want it to get back to fucking Crockett that, he was talking to Vince McMahon, but it did. And Crockett was like, oh, what the fuck here? What's going on? He said, look, we've got you on TV. You're one of the Four Horsemen. We got to get you under contract. We can't have you just run away to Vince McMahon.
Right.
And so he said, sure, I'll fucking sign a contract. So the contract, they were trying to give him a regular contract in wrestling. Back then, a regular contract was you wrestle for us where we tell you, when we tell you. That's it. There's no compensation. There's no this is the rate you're paid or per 100. It's just whatever we feel like paying you, we'll pay you. You just can't work anywhere else. That's your contract.
That doesn't sound good.
Not a great contract. It's still, unless you're a star, it's up until 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it was still the contract Vince was handing people, unless you were a star. Now they have then they started with downside guarantees where you're guaranteed to make $75,000, but that's if you don't work at all, but then you can build on it from there. But that was only after they went public and everything.
Yeah.
Before that, he said, you'd say, well, where's the money? He'd go, I don't offer money. I offer opportunity. That's what he would say. I offer opportunity. In other words, I won't take any risk here, but I'd like you to risk everything. That's what that means.
Yeah, that's a club booker saying, think about the exposure.
Think about the yeah, it's only $50, but think about the exposure. Exactly. Fuck your exposure.
But now 400 people know your name. Oh boy, thank God for that.
Yeah. Ooh, hey,
I
look
just
at that.
bombed. That sucks.
I mean, they'll forget about it by the time they leave. They are drinking in the dark, but still, you know.
And here to see David Spade.
Yeah, don't care about that. So he said, I don't see any kind of compensation here. And they said, yeah, we don't do that. He was like, so let me get this straight. I signed with you. You own my rights. I can't wrestle anywhere else, but there's no money stipulated, no minimum guarantee. And they said, yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah, independent contractor. That's how that is, right? That's how that works, right?
You familiar with the 1099? Get the fuck out of my office.
So he said, this is a great opportunity, but I need to be sure I can provide for my family. So I don't know. And they said, well, what do you think you should be making? And he said, I'd like to be able to make what Ric Flair or Dusty Rhodes makes. You know, guys who've been in the business for 20 years and have proved that they're perennial stars and draws. I just got here, but they seem to like me, so I'd like their money. But, I mean, what are they going to do? He's got him between a rock and a hard place, though, because if he fucking leaves, it looks terrible for them. They don't want to lose him. So they're like, what do we do? So they said, well, give me a figure you'd consider to be fair. So they ended up coming up with a 3-year deal, paying a minimum of $350,000 a year.
Not bad. That means he started at like $750.
Yeah, exactly. They got to $350.
Yeah.
And they said, as well as first class airfare also here. So he said that's where he said, hey, you want the 4 horsemen, you want us to maintain a level of, we're supposed to be jet flying, limousine drive, and all this shit. I'm not going to pull up in my, Geo Prism rental car and be like, I'm one of the horsemen. That's not going to work. So they said, okay, we see your point. That's fine. And they agreed to the whole thing. So this is, his contract is like the tip of the Crockett iceberg of why all these big guaranteed contracts that he couldn't pay for because his network that he was trying to build and get all this advertising money didn't work out. And then Starrcade 87 was supposed to be his big money maker where he'd get all this money back from the whole year because he had all these balloon payments due for contracts. But that's when Vince McMahon decided to run the Survivor Series to fuck their pay-per-view and Vince McMahon told the cable systems, if you carry their pay-per-view, you can't have WrestleMania next year.
Is that right?
And out of all the cable systems in the country, hundreds of them, think about it, back in the 80s, only 4 carried it. Only 4.
Is that right?
So completely fucked them. They had no money.
Wiped it. Yeah.
Wiped them. And it was at that
Just
point.
Erased it. How do you do that as like a guy that's in business and doing the same thing as somebody else? I get monopolies and business competition, but how could you be proud of yourself if you wiped them from everything just based on you won't be able to host what I do if you carry their shit? That's fucking gross.
That is disgusting. That's some like mob shit. You know what I mean? Yeah, you're not going to get my stuff if you carry this guy's goods in your store. You know what I mean? You're not going to get my mate tags if you carry these Whirlpools. Like, that's fucking ridiculous.
I'd want to go up against everything great if I think I'm the best.
Well, that's the funny part. Vince always talks about competition, but he would do every dirty trick and he considered that part of competition rather than just
eliminating competition. That's not what competition is.
It wasn't let's both put out our products and see which one's the best and have people come. Because at that point, I mean, Crockett had great matches and good wrestling, but the presentation looked like garbage. It looked like fucking, I mean, as a kid compared to, I like it now actually because it's a more, that from back then, it's a more kind of real looking thing. It feels dirtier and more real. Yeah. But as a kid, one felt like the major leagues and one felt like this is great wrestling, but I wish they had more money for their cameras and stuff because they're grainier and shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was kind of like that. Like Vince had the advantage. He didn't need to do that, but he wanted to bury everybody. This is where he'd pretty much, Vern Gagne was dying, so he had already slayed that one, and Crockett was next on his fucking list. And Bill Watts had sold the UWF to Jim Crockett too, so that was another big expenditure that he had.
Sure.
So Crockett was going down hard, and the only way that it could possibly be saved is if a billionaire felt like buying them on a whim. And lucky for him, one was in the market for a wrestling company, Ted Turner.
Yeah.
So Ted Turner didn't want them to go out of business because he wanted that on his station. He wanted that programming.
Really?
Yeah, got good ratings, and he liked it. He said, he told people, I like wrestling. I think it's fun, and I like it, and I want it on my station. And he said, when I first started out, if it wasn't for wrestling, I wouldn't have been in business. He goes, wrestling built TBS, he said.
You're probably right.
In the 70s, it was the most popular show they had by far. It was the only one that drew. It was that or Braves games, and the Braves sucked, so... you know, or reruns of fucking Andy Griffith. That's literally what they had on. So, so Jim Crockett is sold to Turner. In 1989, he and Sting hook up, the wrestler Sting.
Yeah.
And they're like best friends for years, he and Sting. So they become business partners as well, and they open their first gym together in Atlanta called Main Event Fitness.
That's what they were doing, huh?
Yeah, Main Event Fitness. They had a bunch of them, and they were the owners. So I think they still have one or something, or one of them does.
Those still exist, right? I swear I've seen them.
Maybe they sold them off. I don't know. But, yeah, the Main Event Fitnesses they're out there. I mean, I thought they're out there anyway.
That was Lex Luger, huh?
Yep, so him and Sting together opened that.
Fascinating.
So, now, his matches, by the way, we have to say, like, Flair kind of helped make him a match with Flair. Sting really helped make him as well in this one match with Sting. It won the 1991 Pro Wrestling Illustrated Match of the Year.
Is that right?
Made him look like a good worker, which is not easy to do with Lex. So he's limited. Let's just say that. In 1990, he is featured as a guest star in an episode on season 3 of Superboy. So I never watched Superboy, so I don't know. But
in 1990?
It was on for like 5 seasons, though, so I don't know what
Who
the fuck
was
they were
it?
doing. I didn't even recognize the names on there. It was just like...
Not Macaulay Culkin?
No, I feel like it was some kind of like syndicated show, you know, one of those straight to syndication deals.
Yeah.
And they just sold them around. September 24th, 1990, they have another child, he and his wife here, and it's a daughter named Lauren. So there's that. So now
there you go. There's a junior.
Kinda, yeah. So son and a daughter now.
Yeah.
So they're doing okay. Well, no, it's Peggy.
Yeah, but no, for him, Lawrence.
Lawrence. Oh my God, how did I not even think of that? I'm looking at the next thing because I'm fucking trying to figure out our time, and we don't have a producer, so I got to look forward. I don't have time to think about Lauren and Lawrence sometimes.
Lauren is the female junior of Lawrence.
It is. It absolutely. You're 100% right. So he becomes the WCW World Heavyweight Champion after Ric Flair goes to the WWF. Ric Flair goes, takes the belt with him, does that whole thing. So then they make Lex Luger the new champion.
Got it.
To replace Ric Flair. So while that's all going on, he loses the title to Sting in February of 92 because he's leaving because Vince McMahon has finally got a hold of him.
He has made a good deal.
I finally get to have that vascularity right here. Right
in my lap.
Right in my lap, right in front of me. Lex, do me a favor. Put these overalls on, would you? I don't want you to wear them to the ring. I just want to see you in them for my own. I'm going to take a Polaroid of this real quick. Hold on. Just for my own personal collection. Don't worry about it. That's okay, pal. Don't worry about it. So he signs him. He is still under contract with WCW, okay? When he steals him away from WCW, he's not under contract, but he has a non-compete clause. Now, the non-compete clause, though, only counts for wrestling. It does not count, though, if someone were to, I don't know, constitute a bodybuilding federation and call it the World Bodybuilding Federation like we did in that bonus episode.
I remember that very well.
That's what Vince did, and he signed him to a World Bodybuilding Federation contract, and he was supposed to come in and be one of the World Bodybuilding guys for a few 6 months until his contract, the non-compete was over, and then he'd come in and wrestle. That was the whole point.
This is how you continue to make me money, whether you wrestle or not.
Boom, and how I can take you. Yeah.
Yep.
So what ends up happening, though, I'll let him describe it. June 1992, said wife was cooking some salmon and asparagus for dinner. He said, I'm just going to go out for a quick spin on the bike. I'll be right back. And, he grabbed his full motorcycle helmet and all that sort of thing. So he got on there. He said, I thought my customized turquoise and white Harley was beautiful, but I didn't feel Peggy shared my enthusiasm. I had taken her out for a ride right after I bought the bike. When I tried to make a tight turn in the cul-de-sac, the bike tipped over. We both jumped off in time, but Peggy never got on the bike again.
I'm sure she wouldn't. If you can't control the fucking thing.
You don't sound good at it, is what it is. That's why. So he said,
tried to make a sharp turn. What? Why would you do that?
Why? It's a motorcycle.
You gotta learn. You gotta lean. Don't turn the wheel, bud.
What are you doing? Oh, watch out. So he said it was dusk, and he started down a 2-lane road. And he said, I had a route I liked to take from our residential area to the more rural, forested Georgia countryside. So that's what he wants to do. He said, as I approached a long, sharp curve at 45 or 50 miles an hour, I realized I was going too fast to hold the bike on my side of the road. So he's going to go, about to go over the high side is what he's going. That's what that's called. So enjoy. He said, with the sun disappearing, the curve had snuck up on me. So midway through it, I started moving to the middle of the road, still blind to what was coming ahead, and hoping no one was coming the other way. So he's going to go even quicker over the high side. So he said, but someone was. Coming out of the curve, I saw the car with 2 teenagers inside. The young driver's expression was wide-eyed in panic, and the girl next to him was screaming. Like me, the driver had drifted into the middle of the road to execute the curve.
Oh,
which you do with these back roads. So I steered more to the left and gassed it, hoping to avoid a head-on collision. In that split second, I also lifted my right leg up so it wouldn't get crushed between the bike and the car. The impact catapulted me into the air. I was soaring like Superman for a few seconds. I was aware that my feet were flying up over my head, and from my years of wrestling, I knew what that meant. If I didn't do something fast, I would land on my neck or my head, so I put out my right arm to break my fall.
Oh, God.
Amazingly, I didn't hit any trees. I just bounced about 150 feet down the wooded slope. Wow.
Oh, dear Lord.
Doing twisted cartwheels that made me feel like I was in a clothes dryer. I couldn't keep my legs from splaying. I almost felt like I was being split in two. When I finally stopped, I was lying with my feet pointed up the slope. My first thought was, am I alive?
Yeah.
Fair thought. Once I had established that, I looked at my left arm, which had been gashed in several places. Since I was only a few weeks away from appearing on Vince's WBF pay-per-view extravaganza as a guest poser, my only thought was, man, these gashes won't look good on stage under the lights. Mm-hmm. Wow. My next thought was, don't lie here, get back up to the road. I could move my legs, but I had trouble sitting up. I felt a strong stinging sensation in my right arm. I was wearing a tank top under a baggy 3/4 sleeve workout pullover. I pulled up my sleeve, and my right arm looked like it was going to fall off. It was dangling like a wind chime, nearly severed above the elbow.
Oh, Jesus.
Below my elbow, bones were sticking out 4 or 5 inches.
Oh, shit.
So he went to the hospital. At first, they said they were going to take his arm right away.
Yeah.
And somehow they got talked out of that. He said that he lost so much blood it was necessary to delay surgery. So Dr. Andrews, who is the guy who works on all the football players and baseball players, she said Dr. Andrews worked wonders inserting a titanium plate into my arm. Now, from now on, his setup move for the torture rack is the forearm to the head, which is the titanium forearm, because he actually had metal in his arm, so they made it look like it was so solid it would knock you out if he hit you with it.
Sure.
So
like with a fucking crowbar.
Yeah, exactly. He said, when I first saw the damage, this is the doctor, I thought, I can't do anything with this. But then I put that together, and then that together, and I realized maybe I can do something with this. Wow. So anyway, he comes in, finally. They do this fucking interview with him from his hospital bed, because he's supposed to do the pay-per-view. So on the pay-per-view, there's an interview with him. And it's WWF does a lot of cheesy shit, like they did Ricky Steamboat back in the day in his, quote, hospital and all that when it was bullshit. This guy's really in the hospital. He's in bad shape.
He's had his arm rebuilt.
Yeah, he's in terrible shape, but he's there and he's like, I'm going to come in and kick everybody's ass. What do you think of that? Nobody looks as good as me. Yeah, minor setback with this little motorcycle thing, but don't worry about it. Next week, I'll kick everybody's ass. And then he was like, going back to not knowing where he is from being in so much pain. But Vince says, like, you still got to do it, pal.
You're contractually obligated.
Then they did weird promos with him before the WBF. Like they would do promos where it would be like him and some chick. I don't know if it was his wife or not, but it would be like him and some lady, and she would like hand him a glass of milk and he would drink it and then say really annoying, like arrogant things after he drank milk. It was a weird, real weird. So when he comes in to wrestle, they're like, we don't want you to be the total package anymore because Vince needs to own your trademark. So, come on. You can't have that.
We need you to be something.
He said, everybody knows you as Lex Luger, the total package. Believe me, you are, pal. Oh, just ask my loins. They're quivering. Yeah. He said, but let's get them thinking of you as the narcissist, which he is. He's a narcissist. Then he explains to him in Greek mythology, Narcissus was his name, was known for his physical beauty. One day, when Narcissus passed a pool of water, he was drawn to his own reflection and became so enamored with it that he wouldn't leave. So that was the whole point. So the whole marketing is, look at me, I'm perfect in every way. I have the perfect body, I have the perfect everything, and look at me, you can't get any better than my body. And he would, the big mirror, and he would pose in it and shit.
Hulk Hogan's too tall.
Yeah, he's too tall. So once Hulk Hogan leaves in 93, though, he moves on after the whole Yokozuna debacle with him. Yokozuna's being the champion at this point. They decide, Vince is like, I need a new Hulk Hogan. You're blonde and have muscles. You're Hulk Hogan now. That's what he did, basically. You're going to go from the narcissist, who's just this, you're garbage and trash and I'm the best, this outlandish, stupid character. You're going to go from that to the all-American, patriotic, fucking flag-waving, kid-holding good guy.
From hateable to lovable overnight?
Overnight. With no, there's no, giant angle that turned him naturally. It was just we want you to be, well, there is a giant angle that sort of turned him naturally, but, okay, the point is, one day he's the narcissist, and he's wearing these weird silver trunks, and he's like this unrealistic character holding a mirror, and then the next minute, he's on a fucking aircraft carrier body slamming Yokozuna wearing like a shirt made out of the flag and being a good guy out of nowhere. It was like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
So what they did was it was the 4th of July, 1993. Yokozuna's the champion. If you don't know who he was like a 600-pound Samoan man that they pretended was Japanese and called him Yokozuna. Pretended he was a sumo. And it was a challenge to anybody in America, anybody, and they had it on an aircraft carrier, the whole deal. Anybody, any of you weak Americans can body slam me. You bet you can't. I'll stand here all day on the 4th of July till someone does. And all the wrestlers came in, and they had NFL players came in. I remember Lee Rousson, who was a running back for the Giants, was doing it for some reason. I was like, the hell are you doing here? So they brought in all these people, and they all tried, my back, and I can't do it, man, he's too big. And then out of nowhere, a helicopter flies in. Jimmy, a helicopter.
Grand entrance.
A helicopter flies in and lands on the aircraft carrier, and out pops the new and improved all-American Lex Luger. And he's ready to body slam Yokozuna. And he walks up. And, I'll let him tell it. What Yokozuna was saying is this the best America has to offer, and you guys are so weak and all that. And then Lex comes in. And Lex says when they were nose to nose, he started to panic. He said, Yoko, I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm not going to be able to do it. They had him wearing cowboy boots.
Yeah.
Because he had to look, like boots like that. And he said it was so,
like you're from Dallas.
It was so slippery with the boots on and the footing.
Yeah.
He goes, I don't have any footing, man. I got to lift 600 pounds up. He said, I feel like I'm on ice skates in these boots. I can't do anything. And he said that Yoko said, no problem, brother. I got you. Just do your best to stay on your feet. That's all. And Yoko's was like a great worker for such a big guy. And it's the worst slam in history because Lex looks real uncomfortable. He basically Yoko jumps up, turns himself over, and lands on his back. But it's all a foot and a half off the ground. It's really, but it was they made it out like he finally did it. So at this point, he's going to challenge Yokozuna. He's going to become the champion. And what they do is the corniest and worst thing in the history of wrestling. It's the worst thing ever. It's so bad. This is why like ECW became popular and like the NWO later on. It's corny shit like this. They put together a thing. It's a tour bus called the Lex Express.
Oh, no.
And he is going to go from coast to coast, stopping in every small town to come stop at the town square and have all the kids run up to him and be what Hulk Hogan used to be able to do without thinking about it. But they have to like set up press events for him to do it. Hulk Hogan back in the day could just walk into any town, stand there, and within 10 minutes there'd be 100 kids around him. Like, that's not Lex Luger.
The food court at any mall.
Any mall. The mall is over. Everyone's looking at Hulk Hogan in 1987 or whatever. But this, they're trying to force it down your fucking throat, and nobody's buying it. Nobody's buying it. It's fucking lousy. It's really lousy. They did all these autograph signings, and the worst part of it is the song. I'll be your hero.
Oh, no.
Jimmy, I need you to do something right now while I explain this. No, thank God. It sounds like I can't even describe it. It sounds like it's somebody you'll recognize the voice when you hear it. Yeah, it's one of those. And look up Lex Luger, I'm your hero. Just all you need you to do. And I need you to play about 5 seconds of it into the mic because
I am your hero. Is it American Hero?
Yeah, it doesn't fucking matter. You'll see it when you get there. And fast forward about 30 seconds.
They remastered it? You have to be kidding me.
About 30 seconds you got to fast forward because otherwise you're going to get like just the swelling like keyboard in the beginning, which you don't want that. You want you want the passion of the song. But we can't play much of it because WWE is super litigious.
Okay. Well, they got the
That's all you need to play. I'll be a hero. Over this, the beginning part of it is this long shot of a road. So it's all, where you can't see.
The tour bus is coming.
And it's coming at you from like miles away on a flat desert road. And while that's where it swells in the beginning, and then it's like, we need a hero. As they say hero in the first verse there, over the fucking tour bus coming at you, they do like the half like kind of ghost image of the fucking soldiers raising the flag. Okay? Then hero, they cut to George Washington's face from the Washington, not cut to, it's just overlaid.
Yes.
Then it's Abraham Lincoln after that.
Ghost faces.
I'll be a hero. He's fucking Lincoln, Jimmy.
And then it's got a kid's face.
And then they show him hugging the kids. They show
child's face.
Him and his wife and his two kids he's holding, and he's in like his big Zuba pants and his it's terrible. Look it up. You need to Google it and watch it because it's the worst thing that wrestling has ever fucking done.
And then it's got him slamming Yokozuna, and then him it's just him being a dad.
That's it. While wearing a shirt with a flag on it at all times. And like stars and stripes Zubas as well. Okay, I don't know how much we can play of it. That's what it is. Bad shit.
It's very funny.
So he's got this big fucking thing, this big swelling thing. The 1994 Royal Rumble comes. It's for a shot at the belt, and there's a tie with Bret Hart. It's the dumbest thing ever. They both tumble out together and hit at the exact same time. It's so stupid. Bret gets 3 times as loud a cheers as Lex Luger, by the way.
Because
they
Bret
don't
was
care.
so much fun.
Well, also, Bret came in like 1985 and built his way up to getting all this respect. This guy came in. He's a bad guy 1 second. And next second, he's the hero. Fuck you.
Next second, he's George Washington.
Yeah, he's George Washington. So he's got the big title match at WrestleMania while he's going across the country in a tour bus being your hero. Grace. That's Grace. Okay?
My God, what a life he's had.
Quick downfall here. Don't worry about it. This is going to be Fast and Furious coming at you here. But I had to build up how famous this guy is. So he doesn't win the belt. The whole thing is, if he doesn't win it this time, he can't have any more shots. So what they do is they make him win by countout. So they have one, and everyone's counting along, and he's acting like he's excited about a count out, and then he celebrates on 10. You didn't win the belt, stupid. You can't win by count out. So they just fucked him, but still sort of made the fans happy that he won. They had balloons coming down and everything. They made it. People came out to celebrate with him. He didn't win anything. It was ridiculous. So he turns into a shit nothing for the WWF. They decided that he wasn't worth shit. They tried to push him as hard as they could, and the fans went, meh, don't care.
Yeah, and he's got a steroid face. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just an he looks awful.
He does, especially now. So he ends up being in a tag team with Davey Boy Smith, where it's like the British-American connection bullshit. You know what I mean?
No.
One of those. Not good at all. They have a mashup song of like Stars and Stripes Forever and the British. They have like those mixed together. It's really weird. So anyway, from then on, he talks to Sting on the phone, as he's always talking to Sting. It's his buddy. They own businesses together. And he said, it's August 95, and he's like, or 94, I think it was. And he said that, technically I'm not under contract even with WWE. And Sting's like, what are you talking about? You're not under contract. And he said, I haven't been under contract for 6 months. We've been working it out, but it's just kind of a handshake month to month till we figure it out. So Sting was like, so you're not under no written contract with Vince McMahon, but you're on his shows every week and all that sort of thing. There's no non-compete period, nothing. He's like, I have no contract. I'm just doing whatever. So they said, okay, hold on. Sting goes to Eric Bischoff, who's running WCW, and says, Lex is fucking available. We can get Lex Luger. He's got no contract.
Yeah.
Eric Bischoff goes, not really interested. Don't like him. Eric Bischoff doesn't like Lex Luger. Whether the fans like him, whether he draws, aren't a matter. He said he was an asshole to him back when he was like a second tier announcer, and Lex thought he was hot shit. He treated him like garbage, and he treated everyone like garbage. So he goes, I don't know, I got no time for that guy. That's one of those. He stepped on the wrong toes on the way up, because this guy was now his boss, who he shit on before. So, and we told the story with Buff Bagwell about Lex Luger and Buff talking in the hallway.
Yeah.
And that fucking guy, they wouldn't let some maintenance guy get through with his shit, and Buff ended up roughing him up. Well, Lex was standing there too, and he wasn't moving either. That's the kind of asshole he is. But Sting said, give him a chance. You know, he's a different guy. He's better now. You're going to like him. He's a hero. Are you kidding me? Bring him in. So Bischoff said, I'll bring him in, but for no money. He's like, I'll offer
nothing.
He said, as out of respect for Sting, I got to offer him a contract because that's my main guy, and I got it. So he says, but I'll offer him such a shit contract that he definitely won't take it. And Lex took it. And to his credit, he said to him, well, tell you what, that's fine, and I'll prove to you that I'm worth more than that. And the next contract, you give me more than that. And Eric said, if you do that, great, sounds good. And he did. Lex ended up making a lot of money in WCW because he became a big star there. He comes in the most amazing of ways here. This was a huge moment in wrestling history, for whatever that's worth. So this is the first Monday Nitro episode. WWF had WWF Raw, Monday Night Raw, which is still on. Yeah. And they decided we want to go head-to-head against them. Ted Turner decided it, actually. You're going to go on Monday nights right against the other guy. So exactly what Vince used to do to people. Now he's getting it done to him. So they decide that they're going to do that. And on the first Monday Nitro episode, it's from the Mall of America in Minneapolis, which is super weird. It's fun to watch just because you're looking at this. You're like, is that a chess king in the background? What am I looking at here? That Auntie Anne's is looking
so
good.
much fun, though.
It was great. Nitro was a blast. So the first episode, now, mind you, he is on fucking Monday Night Raw the week before. He was at a house show for WWF the night before. Okay? So he's doing that. He comes out on live television in the middle of Hulk Hogan's match and walks out and stands in the aisle. And the announcers play it. What the hell's he doing here? He doesn't work here. What's going on with this? What's blah, blah, blah. What's happening? What's going on here?
Where's security?
What's going on? And the one guy goes, it's a mall. It's a public place. He can come wherever he wants. Like, who knows?
True. Yeah.
He ends up
just getting something engraved at Things Remembered.
You don't know that. He could be buying his dad a Zippo for his parents' wedding anniversary. To dad.
Needs a cake knife.
Yeah, come on. So he said he gets in the ring with Hogan and challenges him to a match the next week and all this type of shit. And it's a huge deal because Vince had no fucking idea it was going to happen.
Oh, God.
The The one stipulation of him coming here was he was not allowed to say a word to anyone, including Vince McMahon. It had to be a complete surprise. He had to come out there and have people go, holy shit. So he flew down there in secret. He wore a hood. They put a hood over his head to bring him into the building and hid him until it was time to come out. They hid him in a closet, Jimmy. He had to sit in a closet and wait.
Well, as a guy who's very narcissistic and proud of himself, that probably is his crowning achievement.
It is. Yeah, no shit. I'm just whip it off. It's me.
Yeah, here I am.
So he came out, and it really was a big surprise. Vince McMahon lost his fucking mind. And do we not have what the fuck is going on? How the fuck is he on there? He lost it. This is one of the times when Vince really went nuts. And he was so mad at Lex Luger that he's still not with them anymore. Like, he's started working with them in the wellness shit, but like they rejected him for the Hall of Fame. Like Vince never rehired him. When WCW closed, he was a huge star still, never got a sniff because Vince was so fucking mad at him for doing this. He's the only guy who never came back, ever. You could say Macho Man too, but once he was dead, they took him back. This is a different thing completely. This guy could die and Vince won't say a fucking word about him. So he said, are you saying I can't give Vince any kind of notice? And Bischoff told him, that's right. And he said, I don't think I'm comfortable with that. He goes, well, if you want to do it, do it. If not, go fuck yourself. Go back there and fucking team with Davey Boy Smith all you want. Enjoy.
I don't like you anyway.
I don't like you. Exactly what he said. I don't really care. But this is the way you can help me. If you don't want to do that, then I'm not interested in you. So he ends up doing it, becomes a big star there. He actually wins the title on Nitro from Hogan with a torture rack, which was awesome. A big fucking deal. Like, that didn't happen very often. Hogan losing on television by submission isn't like a thing that happens. So, it was a big deal. He wins the title on Nitro. He loses it at the next pay-per-view 6 days later to Hogan again. But still, 6 days. Yeah. So he's really into pills and booze and shit, too, as time goes on here.
I mean, you're going to if you're abusing your body like that. I'm surprised that there aren't more of. I'm surprised, to be honest with you, that more die of heart attacks than of drug overdoses.
Yeah, it's true. I don't know. Yeah, really.
It's shocking.
It is. I guess
they pill and booze like crazy to deal with the pain.
But that's why their heart stops. Because it's pills and booze, and they don't OD on either one of them, but the combination together stops their heart.
Wears it all down. Yeah,
happens a lot. And he has one other interest besides wrestling, pills, and booze, and that is fucking Miss Elizabeth.
Oh, really? You can't do that.
Elizabeth Hewlett, who is the former Miss Elizabeth, who was married to Randy Macho Man Savage and was his manager forever and had come back into WCW, where she was a part of the NWO and all this type of shit.
He's banging her?
Yeah, well, they had divorced in 92, Macho Man and Liz, but... He and her and Lex got together. Now Lex is still married and living with his wife and all this, and having an affair with Liz on the side. Okay, pretty decent one too. Here, he said, I spent time at the gym and training and checking on the business side of things, but I also made time for Elizabeth. And he said, however, we weren't being as discreet as we had been to begin with. He said that sometimes after my midday workout, when I knew my son Brian was at school, Elizabeth would stop over the apartment, and he said they'd catch a buzz together before eating. They'd drink and take some pills because that's what they were into. He said, one afternoon I heard Brian's key in the door, and he's like, why is he home early? I scrambled and rushed Elizabeth into a closet in the spare bedroom.
Hid her. Unbelievable.
I tried to act nonchalant until Brian told me that he didn't have practice, so he was home for the rest of the day. He said, so I started catching a light buzz to calm my nerves. He said, if worst comes to worst, Elizabeth will have to stay in the closet until Brian goes to bed. So a few hours,
6 hours.
A few hours later, I suggested to Brian we should get some carry out for dinner, hoping he'd go with me, and he did. While we were gone, Elizabeth slipped out.
Poor Elizabeth.
Poor
Jesus Christ.
Elizabeth. It gets worse. February 14th, 2002, Valentine's Day, Elizabeth asked him for a ride to a Range Rover dealership to drop off her car for some work. Before we left, he said that she surprised me with Valentine's gifts. I left them sitting in the kitchen table, thinking I would stash them when I got back in a few minutes. Brian was at school, and Peggy and Lauren never stopped by the apartment during the day, so it seemed safe.
Yeah.
Unbeknownst to me, while I was down the street with Elizabeth, Peggy stopped by the apartment with a surprise for Brian and me, a special Valentine's dinner she had prepared for us. Instead, she saw Elizabeth's purse and her gifts to me sitting in plain sight on the table.
Oh, no.
So she said that now the wife was calling him, blowing up his phone, saying, "What are you going to do, Lex? What are you going to do now? What the fuck is your problem? You're an asshole." Right. So she said,
Larry.
Larry. He said, I told her she just asked for a ride to the car dealership. I was helping her out. She brought me those gifts. I was as surprised as you are. Why would she do that? That's crazy. Please forgive me. So she gave him a second chance. Mm-hmm. By the way, during all this, he has so many speeding tickets, it's not even funny. He drives as fast as he possibly can, all places, at all times. There's a story here where he is pulled over on the way to tanning. He didn't want to miss his tanning appointment because it's hard to get in there, he said. He was pulled over going 167 miles an hour.
To go tan?
In a Porsche.
Holy shit.
It's one short of Sid Finch. That's fast.
Yeah. That is moving.
He said, the guy said, the cop said, you're going 167 miles an hour. Why were you driving that fast? He said, I have a tanning appointment. This place is always booked, and I got to do it. And the guy said, do you know how many people you endangered, including yourself? And then didn't give him a ticket.
Wow.
You should have been arrested for that. So 2003, this is WCW's closed down. He's got no wrestling. He said his resolution's to clean up his act. He didn't need to go to rehab. He'd fix it himself, though. He's going to stop drinking and taking pills in the mornings and afternoons and just catch a buzz before dinner. Going to rein this in a little bit.
Off, yeah.
He said he'd vowed to himself that he would get things under control. He said when he decided to do something, he always got it done, so he could do this too. Now, back to Elizabeth. He's had to hide more, so now he has a secret phone. Oh, and a secret condo.
Get out of here.
He said that was pretty easy to arrange. I just used some banker that doesn't go through us and separate person. It was easy. So he's got a secret phone, a secret condo, the whole deal. Eventually, they move. I guess they're living together. She definitely lives there, and I don't know if he lives there half the time or if he's always there or what. But they move into a townhouse. It's a $300,000 plus home, nice townhouse, big, nice house. It's really nice. Yeah. Put it that way. The neighbor of his, a guy named Glenn Robbins, said when he saw Lex Luger was moving in, and then Lex held a block party to introduce himself to the neighbors, he said, I was hoping he'd show me his famous move, the torture rack. Flip those burgers and then rack me, would you, Lex?
Yeah. Pick me up.
So April 19th, 2003. Liz wanted to walk the dog. This is Lex's story from his book, okay? This is what I'm just telling you from the book. He said she liked walking the dogs, but they get the dogs are assholes and tangle the leashes up. So he said, don't take her with the leash. Take them outside without the leash or whatever. So it's April 19th, 2003. He said, I walked out into the garage to see them off with no intention of going along. About 10 feet down the driveway, the two dogs began romping after each other. Okay, so this is exactly what he said he warned about. Mm-hmm. And the leashes wrapped around Liz's legs. She became hogtied and fell on the driveway, hurting her arm and shoulder and scraping her face under her right eye.
Uh-huh.
That's the claim here. He said, it all happened in an instant. When I ran over to help her, she insisted she was fine. When we went inside and put a bag of ice on her eye, she was concerned about the scrape, so I suggested putting some Neosporin on it. A few days later, we had both gotten buzzed before going to our favorite pizza place to pick up dinner. When we got home, I pulled into the garage. Elizabeth got out of the Porsche with the pizza box still on her lap, lost her footing, and stumbled. The pizza box flipped open, and the extra-large pizza loaded with everything went all over the inside of the car.
Okay.
Oh, God. She got up and began heading into the townhouse. I was definitely upset. Hey, we need to clean this mess up now. You clean it up, she responded. When she headed for the door that led into the house, I blocked her way. We continued to argue, and Elizabeth kept trying to get past me into the house. As our voices got louder, a neighbor called the police. We were both in the house when several squad cars pulled up. I opened the door. One officer asked me to wait outside while he talked to Elizabeth. I didn't think much of it, standing outside and chatting with the other policemen. A few minutes later, the officer came back out through the garage and said, "You're under arrest for domestic abuse." He said, "What?" I was stunned. I had never laid a hand on a woman in my life. I was read my rights and taken to jail. He said, so he called his lawyer and all this. The arresting officer, he said, had seen Liz's black eye and the abrasion on her cheek and believed that I had harmed her. Elizabeth emphatically insisted that I never touched her and that she was very upset the officer arrested me. So there you go. He got arrested for that, saying that for the dog injury is what he says here. He says that
Had
Liz
nothing to do with the pizza all over the car.
Nothing to do with that at all. Check the Porsche for pizza. He says that Liz had been crying because of the argument, but it wasn't a physical thing. He says his theory is that when talking about the Cobb County Police, he believes that he's on their radar, and that's what it is. Okay. He said Luger coined a phrase and says that he would, quote, get Lex Lugered, referring to when the smallest thing, an exaggerated number of cops would show up to his house just to trying to find a way to send him to jail, is what he said. Okay. So that's all it is. So they're trying to Lex Luger me, everybody. He said one car shows up, then there's 7 more, and then there's an ambulance and even a fire truck. You guys got to be kidding me. It was the most ridiculous stuff I've ever seen in my life. Just unbelievable. He said he also felt the cops on the numerous visits to his house.
What?
Yeah, numerous. He said they enjoyed hanging out because he was very well known at the time, and especially in Georgia, because Atlanta, WCW is Atlanta-based. He said, though, he hated the fact that dozens of cop cars would constantly show up and make a scene.
Yeah, but they can't
exactly.
just show up.
There's a reason for showing up. Give me a fucking break here.
Yeah, they're not allowed to just pull up in front of your house, right? And have 12 cop cars?
Not with 12 not all the time for no reason. Yeah. Just coming to say hi, Lex. Got any extra pizza?
Usually there's a phone call that gets them there.
That happened to my little brother and my sister-in-law, actually, though. They were watching TV one night, and then cops came and knocked on the door, and they were like, hello. Yeah. And they were like, we need to talk to you outside, sir. And they, like, separated them. And they're like, "Are you afraid right now? Is he hurting you?" And she's like, "What the fuck are you talking about? We're watching TV. What is happening?" Apparently, there's some neighbors like 3-4 doors down that were arguing loud and always argue loud.
Gave him the wrong address.
You know how that his neighborhood is like those hills and all from his backyard. There's like you can see like 20 houses looking in on it. So sounds travel weird. And apparently one of the houses behind him had heard these people arguing all the time, and the way it traveled, they thought it was his house.
Oh, no.
So they gave the wrong address, and they came twice, 2 different times, and he's like, what are you talking about? Like, they're like, are you okay?
What's wrong with that big Italian guy and that little girl?
And you know her. She's like, trust me, he'd be the one in trouble. You'd be fucking coming for me if you were coming. Trust me, because
he's going to need ice.
He's going to need ice. She's tough. She wears a fucking motorcycle helmet with horns on it. She's a badass. So you don't need to worry about her with him, especially with him because he's so nice. And that's just
he's so docile.
They were like, what? Like, they were just like, stop coming here, please. Like, they had to make a report. He's like, what do you mean you have to make a report? Like, we didn't do anything.
Make a report? I'm a manatee.
He said the report should be, we went to the wrong house. That's the report. Sorry. Like, this is crazy.
The report should be, we fucked up.
Our bad. So that was, they always laugh about that because, like, Jesus Christ. So, I mean, it's good if they show up if someone needs help, but if they just showed up, so we're just watching TV and we're like, oh, who's here? That's weird. What? Like, we weren't even arguing because we weren't even talking. We were just watching TV. So 2 days later, April 21st, 2003, Lex is arrested for DUI after rear-ending a car.
Oh, that's real drunk then.
Yeah, apparently he had
perception is gone.
Gone. Yeah, slurred speech. And he drives so fast everywhere too.
Yeah.
Slurred speech, bloodshot eyes, and could not locate his driver's license, even though he had it on him. They found later. That's how drunk he was. Liz was a passenger in the vehicle and was sent home in a taxi as well. Now, he was driving on a suspended license for not appearing in court for a previous offense of having driven with no insurance and expired tags.
Hilarious.
Now, they get him out. He's all drunk. Oh, by the way, he's got a loaded 9mm in the fucking car as well, which when you're that shit-faced, you shouldn't be anywhere around guns. They don't know if he had a permit for it or not, but it really doesn't matter because you're permit or not, you can't be around guns when you're shit-faced. That's usually part of the – isn't that part of the –
Well, I mean, you shouldn't be. You certainly shouldn't.
That was an extra charge.
I don't think intoxicated with a weapon is an extra charge.
Are you fucking kidding me? You're allowed to be drunk with fucking weapons in public? That's crazy.
I don't. You shouldn't be drunk in public.
You're allowed to be drunk in public as long as you're not causing a stir, but you can't have a gun and be drunk. That's a fucking...
I know that bars in Arizona, you're not allowed to have weapons in bars. Where there's alcohol served, you can't have weapons with you.
Yeah, Tombstone figured that out 140 years ago. Maybe bad idea.
In your home, you're probably allowed to have it on your hip while you're drinking, but in public, probably shouldn't.
That's carrying it. I don't think you can carry it while you're drinking. So... That's crazy. So he ends up back in jail. So he got arrested. Now he's arrested again 2 days later.
Yeah.
He gets out of there. He doesn't know what to do with himself.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what to do with himself. He's sitting there.
Yeah.
What do you do, man? He's just waiting. He doesn't have a job right now.
He needs a drink.
He's got the gyms, but he needs a drink is what he needs there. And the weirdest thing is he hears a knock on the door.
Yeah.
He wasn't expecting anybody. He's like, oh, the cop's here to Lex Luger me again? And it's something much weirder. It's Paul Calhoun, shit pipe enthusiast. He's there, and he says... how is it you come to arrive here, guy? What the I'm looking in your shit pipe right now. There's like needles and pills and shit. I don't know. I got the bottle of cheap vodka in here I'm finding. Hold on a minute. What is this? Oh, there's an arrest warrant for domestic violence. What do we got here? Dog leashes. I found dog leashes in here. What is this shit? I know a guy named Bobby. He's going to be very upset you're blaming your fucking dogs for that, by the way. He's going to be very upset. Your shit pipes are clogged. I'm going to say your whole life is clogging up your shit pipes. You're a fucking disaster. Look at you.
Yeah.
Look at you. You were in jail 2 fucking days ago. Now you're back again. What is this? What are you, some kind of a fucking moron? Has all those blows to the head from football, that made you this fucking stupid? Is this the problem with you? You know what? I can't even get the syringes out of there. You're going to have to get somebody else to do it. I can't do it. I clean your shit pipes and smack your wife. You've already done that, sir. I'm going to get the fuck out of here. See you later. Poof. In a cloud of PVC and shit and pipes. He's gone. Lex is like, I took too many pills, I think.
I'm surprised you didn't find Elizabeth in there. The kids must not have come by today.
They weren't there. Yeah, she's hiding in there. Elizabeth's hiding. So May 1st, 2003.
Yeah.
Here it comes. This is like 10 days later. He says he didn't get home till around 9 o'clock that evening, and Elizabeth, he said Elizabeth seemed to be somewhat high when I found her sitting downstairs in the home theater.
Okay.
He said, I'm going to run over to Blockbuster and grab some movies. And
what a sentence.
That's a sentence right there. And he said, to be honest, I was getting buzzed myself, and then I wanted to enjoy one of my favorite Boston Market meals, meatloaf and mashed potatoes.
Ugh.
That's one of your good God, man. Learn to cook.
He's been boiled down to Blockbuster and Boston Market. Jesus, what a consumer.
Yeah, he's a big star, Jimmy. See?
Yeah.
When he got back from Blockbuster, he popped in an Arnold Schwarzenegger action flick. Yeah. We partied with a few pills and cocktails, but kept it light. Yeah. I was talking about Brian and the Scouts, and Elizabeth was happy I had the opportunity to be there. I was really into the movie, but I did notice Elizabeth kept dozing on and off. She'd wake up during the loud action scenes, then close her eyes again. I didn't think too much of it since it was late. I figured she was tired. By the time the movie was over, I was starving and decided it was time to microwave our meatloaf and potatoes. Why didn't you eat it when you got home and it was fresh? Elizabeth was hungry as well, so she got up from the couch and walked over to the microwave to help. Go ahead and sit down, I said. I'll bring it to you. I took her plate to her on a tray and then sat back down on the couch and started digging into my dinner. She had taken a few bites of food, but the next moment I looked over, her head was rolled back as if she was sleeping. Hey, Liz, wake up. And later on, he'll say, hey, Liz, wake up. Eat your grub. That's what you want to tell your Hey, eat your grub. Fucking ridiculous.
That's one step above gruel.
Yeah.
Which is what Boston Market is.
It is gross. It is. The mac and cheese is semi-edible, but it's not preferable. Put it that way.
It's bad food.
It's not bad. It's not good food. So he said that she didn't answer or move. She said, I said it again, louder, and there's no response. He said, I went over and walked over, knelt down in front of her, moving the tray off her lap. I nudged her, but she didn't move. Man, she's really out, I thought. I nudged her again on the shoulder. She made a gurgling noise and some saliva came out of the side of her mouth, but she didn't open her eyes. Something's not right. When she didn't open her eyes, Something's not right, he said. He's a real, this
Gurgle,
guy,
drool. Something's not right.
not unresponsive. I'm sensing something. I'm not a doctor. I didn't go to medical school, but I am a hero, so I think I can figure this out.
Something's not right.
Unreal.
Wow, he's calm.
He said, I decided to gently pull up one of her eyelids. I was immediately startled. Her eye was completely dilated. Something was terribly wrong. I could feel it in my gut. I ran to my phone and dialed 911. So, he said, right before all this, he said, according to the 911 tape here, he said that it was around 5:30 a.m., he told the operator. He got rented movies. Blockbuster closed at fucking midnight at the latest. They watched movies, got to Boston Market, and didn't eat. They weren't going to eat the dinner till 5:30 in the morning.
Gross.
From Boston Market.
They were partying hard.
That's so hard. He said, I have an emergency medical. My girlfriend has passed out, and I can't get her to come to. He said he couldn't tell if she was breathing. He said, quote, we were eating and she started gurgling. I don't know why. Please send somebody, please. So he told, those are truthful statements. This is what happened and we need help. That's not the 911 statement of, she's not making up a story or building a narrative.
Distancing himself from it. Right?
Yeah, we're eating and she started gurgling. Don't know why. She needs help. Get it here. That's it.
Yeah.
So if you said the address, that'd be perfect. He later told them that she drank about 2 glasses of vodka and took some medication for her back pain, and that's what happened. So he said he started shaking her, hoping the food would come up, because that's the best method of helping a choking person is shake them from the front. That usually works. But
she's like a Pepsi. If you shake her enough,
it'll come to life. He told the 911 operator, I couldn't get her to focus her eyes. She's like totally limp. And he appeared less sure about the choking during the call. When they asked him if he saw her choking, he responded he didn't know. When they tried to have him perform CPR, he responded that when he breathed into her mouth, he could not see her chest move. He said, when I blow in, there's just gurgling, probably from the food. So the emergency people got there. She's now purplish. Okay. And they take her right to Wellstar Kennestone Hospital, where she is pronounced dead. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's that for Liz, which was so fucking sad. That was terrible, man. I feel bad for her. That was shit.
So she died
choking on terrible Boston Market in their condo, man. That's what it was. They took her. They left him on the front steps for a while. They wouldn't let him go in and get his car keys. He said, why can't I go back inside? And that's when they told her, hey, she didn't make it. She died on the way to the hospital. So he said he was very obviously distraught. And then they said, well, we got to talk to you, motherfucker, because this is a drug thing and it's at your house and you're here. So they said they have a few questions, and they said, is there anything in your townhouse that you can think of that shouldn't be there at the police station? He said, no, not that I can think of. He said, are you sure about that? He said, I'm sure. They said, Lex, I want you to think about this very carefully. And he said,
we've already seen it, so say it.
Couldn't think of anything. They said, Lex, the guys on the scene did find something. Do you have any idea what it might be? And he said, no, I don't. And they said, we found a considerable amount of anabolic steroids on the premises.
Uh-oh.
He said, that's news to me. I have testosterone and human growth hormone, but I have legal prescriptions for those. And he said, that's not what we mean. We did a thorough search of your house and found steroids. And, he said that they... what did he say here? Yeah, he said it was the spare bedroom. That's when it hit me. Back in 98 when I started going on the testosterone. They just moved into this condo. So he moved in garbage into his house.
I bring trash from 5 years ago with me.
Yeah. He said that I had stopped using anabolic steroids at that time and got HGH therapy, but at the time I just received a shipment of them from Europe, and since I wasn't using them anymore, I threw the heavily taped package into a zippered pocket in a gym bag, and instead of throwing it away, I threw it up in the closet. So he said that it was the storage room in there, and that's all it was. They also found more than 1,000 pills as well.
Uh-oh.
Found tons of pills. He's charged with 13 counts of felony drug possession. Steroids, other bodybuilding drugs, maskers for tests, painkillers, anti-anxiety drugs that is not prescribed for him, all sorts of shit they found there. Liz's autopsy shows no sign of foul play, just shows forensics pathologist here said she described a common scenario called a cafe coronary, which people who are drinking alcohol and eating lose their eating coordination and choke on food and die of asphyxiation. Too drunk to eat. Yeah. She said if some food blocking her airway became dislodged at some point, the autopsy might not be able to determine the exact cause of death, and the final cause could be listed as undetermined if shit like this happens. Her blood alcohol level was only 0.29, but she also had a mix of painkillers, nausea medication, and tranquilizers in her system.
She was super sleepy.
Hydrocodone, alprazolam, and vodka. So Xanax, hydrocodone, and vodka she's got, and some other shit. Yeah. So Lex still fucked up at this point, by the way. After this happens, he is one of 700 patients from several different sports who a California doctor arranged for steroids and human growth hormones to arrive to. This was a doctor that got in trouble. They found him because Chris Benoit is the guy that he got it from. This is the guy he got it from. So that's how that happened. So he says at that point, he said he would buy a 6-month supply of controlled substances when he was upping his stash, just re-upping. He said that's so he didn't have to buy them all the time. He said he was definitely a pill popper and a drunk and an alcoholic and came close to overdosing dozens of times, he said. He attributes having a fast metabolism to saving him on numerous occasions. He said he's at the gym all the time, and people who saw him at the gym probably thought he was fine. He said, but they weren't. He wasn't fine at all. He'd get home and he'd pour vodka down, his throat and fucking pills, and that's what he was doing. So in court in January 2005, he ends up having to go to court for this whole thing, for the drugs and everything. So the judge gives him, you, sir, may fuck off, 5-year sentence.
Wow.
Okay. So the good news is, though, he's a nonviolent first-time offender for this sort of thing. So it was up to the judge what to do. The judge puts him on probation, and that was that. So he gets probation. Lucky him.
Yeah.
So, he said while he's going through his mail, though, at home, he saw a letter from Cobb County that he had missed a court date for one of his many traffic violations that he's accumulated. He said, my driver's license was suspended, so I was hoping to clear it up and get it reinstated. He went to the Cobb County Jail to take care of it. They said otherwise they'll issue a warrant for his arrest, so he got a ride down there and everything. And when he did all of his stuff, they go, yeah, we have a active warrant for you. We have to place you under arrest. He's got a warrant for other traffic shit that he didn't do. And he said, it's been a while since I paid alimony and child support to Peggy and the kids. My plan was that once I got back to work, I would bring things up to speed. However, I hadn't informed the judge in Gwinnett of my attentions, and he had issued the warrant. Yeah, you can't just not do that. You can't just not. That's what happens. He ends up in jail here. They told him you could do one of 3 things in jail. We'll give you 3 options. Placed in a cell by yourself 24 hours a day, no interaction with inmates, solitary. Yeah. You could share a cell with one other inmate and have very limited interaction with other inmates in a common area, more like kind of hybrid, or share a cell with 3 others and be in Gen Pop and do whatever you want.
Right.
So he said, to be honest, they said the guy told him 24-hour isolation is rough, even for the most hardened criminals. Since you're a celebrity, I'd probably take B. That way nobody bothers you. And he said, no, I want Gen Pop. So he ends up in
common criminals.
He ends up in Gen Pop, and which I'm sure everybody loved him. Everybody watches wrestling in there. They'd be like, it's fucking Lex Luger. Give me the torture rack.
Yeah.
He's probably torture racking people. When he gets out, he ends up isolating himself and living in an extended stay hotel.
Hell yeah.
Oh, man. He's divorced from his wife. Now he's a divorced single man here.
Now it's not good.
And he admits that his life has become a complete train wreck by my own bad decisions.
Yeah.
February 3rd, 2005. He is on Interstate 575. His vehicle is off on the side. It's stopped. And he's found because a police officer finds him slumped over the steering wheel of his vehicle on the side of the fucking interstate.
What?
He just pulled over and fell asleep.
Yeah.
As the guy, he woke up as the guy was coming up and just drove away.
Oh, shit, the cops.
Oh, shit, the cops. So he said this cop called the neighboring county sheriff for assistance there. They charged him with drunk driving, driving on an expired tag, alteration of tag, no proof of insurance, and open container.
Unbelievable.
December 2005, he's trying to go to Canada to wrestle. Okay, a guy named Mike Davidson, an AWE promoter. It's him, Buff Bagwell, and Scott Steiner. Quite the crew.
Oh, Christ.
They had to be taken off the plane in Minnesota due to a disturbance. Or once it landed, they were taken off the plane. Buff, Scott, and our guy here, Lex, for committing acts of disturbance. He says that they misinterpreted ribbing of a flight attendant. They're fucking with a flight attendant. Ribbing.
What did they say?
Just breaking balls.
Yeah.
So the poor promoter didn't hear about any of this until it happened, and so his show was all fucked up, and he was like, great. Perfect.
Thanks a lot, fellas.
Yeah. He says, naturally, the frustration was with customs officials at first, but now it's with Lex Luger. Because he found out that, Canada doesn't let people in with criminal records, especially if, by the way, there's an active warrant for you, and there was at the time an active warrant for him. So that's the problem.
You can't keep your shit together for fucking 3 days.
Nope. He's on probation. He hasn't shown up for court for things he's supposed to show up for. So the judge tells him, quote, probation is a privilege, not a given. I'm going to give you 4 months in the Cobb County Jail with 1 month taken off for time served in Minneapolis. If I see you again, you will spend the remainder of your 5-year sentence in our state prison system. Am I clear on that? You, sir, are an asshole, and you definitely may fuck off. So he goes to jail, Cobb County Jail, and he says he remembers thinking, wow, this is a really dark time. His lowest point here, man. He said he contemplated suicide, thinking about a way to end it all. He thought about climbing a divider wall that was in his cell, putting his hands behind his head, and falling headfirst onto the cement floor to end it all. It's a crazy way to try to end it. You just might fuck yourself up.
That is aggressive.
So instead of doing that, he finds God, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Hard. Yeah. His book is put out by like Christian Productions or something, like
Is
Christian book publications. It's like Lex Luger and the Devil, the fucking name of the thing. Yeah, I have the name of it at the end. I'll tell you all about it, but it's fucking crazy. So, yeah, he finds God. He met a persistent jail chaplain, a Baptist pastor named Steve Baskin. That'd be worse than jail, having a Baptist pastor come into my cell every day trying to sell me on shit. Be like, motherfucker, I'm going to shank you, and I will do 20 years if you don't stop this shit. Leave me alone. Lex would wave him away, but then the chaplain started beginning to smuggle small containers of peanut butter for him because Lex said he was always hungry. So then that was to try to help him a little, try to get in with him a little bit here. So once he gets out of jail after 3 months, he went again to live at the extended stay. And he ran into the pastor at a Gold's Gym. I think if you want to run into Lex, you just go to a gym and stand there, and he'll eventually run into you, whether you're Vince
the pastor
McMahon.
Was not working out.
No, Vince McMahon, a pastor, it doesn't matter. He asked Luger to get him into shape so that he could become a physical trainer himself. Luger thought that he thought that if he trained him hard enough, Baskin wouldn't want to come in the gym and he'd leave him alone.
Yeah.
But he didn't. He kept coming back. So a couple months later, he says that his life was transformed, Lex said. He said over time he felt redeemed and he was going to be able to forgive himself. He said, I felt like God was speaking through me. I could see all my stuff on the sand with no foundation. All my life was building on shifting sand and was nothing more than a house of cards. My empire was not built on a rock, but sand.
Yeah.
That's right. He said, I move forward in my life in a direction with a purpose that only God can give us, and I'm very thankful for that. This shows there's hope for any of us. Well, 2006, he appears on a episode of Praise the Lord, which is a talk show on the Trinity Broadcasting Network, declaring himself a born-again Christian. And also, Sting is there with him, too, because Sting's a huge born-again now. They talk. Right? Oh yeah, we have at the end the Sting does the forward of his book. But they're like, we did tons of drugs and fucked around on our wives so much that only God can help us.
Praise God.
2007, he has a double hip replacement surgery. All these wrestlers have to get their hips done, and all the steroid guys have to get their hips done. He's on a flight to San Francisco in late October when he had trouble moving his neck. He thought it was just having, he sat in an awkward position on the plane seat. He tried to jar his neck back into place, made it worse.
Yeah.
So he arrived in pain, and he said he was still able to function, though, but he woke up the next morning and he was paralyzed from the neck down. He couldn't even call for help. He said he somehow maneuvered onto the hotel floor where he laid there for more than 4 hours.
Oh, boy.
Finally, when the house cleaning came in, they took him to Stanford University Hospital. They said he had massive swelling of his spine from the C6 to T5 vertebrae.
Oh, boy.
Attributing the damage to many injured discs and bone spurs that he's collected during football and wrestling.
Sure.
The doctors told him that previous substance abuse problems have nothing to do with the spinal trauma. He's like, is it because I did all those drugs?
No, dummy.
Probably not. Maybe steroids. We don't know. So he remained a quadriplegic for more than 2 months.
Holy shit.
Without as much as even bladder or bowel control. Nothing.
Oh, my God.
They said the swelling usually takes about 6 months to recede, but they said they have no idea how much or when he'll regain any function. He gradually improved. He started to be able to stand on his own for brief periods and use his walker at times.
Yeah.
Motor and other finger skills are usually the last functions to come back. They said, though, but a complete recovery is a long shot, the doctor said. Now, he even has to relearn everything, how to go to the bathroom, how to feed himself, how to dress himself, everything. Luger said, you just have to rehab every day and take great blessings with what you have to do back. Rehab and try to make what you have stronger. It's up to the Lord to do the rest. Well, none of this happened until you got religious, so maybe this is the Lord's plan.
Maybe he's hitting you with penance for all your bullshit.
I don't know. But he gets out of the hospital. He said, I was one of the strongest guys on the planet. I was freaky strong before. I was bench pressing 450 pounds my senior year of high school. I was a freak. Now I can't lift a 1-pound dumbbell. But God tells me that the mind, body, and spirit and what we are as a man is not measured by our physical strength, but by our inner strength.
Yeah.
So what he suffered is a spinal infarction.
Infarction?
INFARCTION. Infarction. Wow. They said essentially it's a spinal stroke due to disruption of the blood supply to the spine. So he's basically paralyzed at this point until he starts coming back here.
Stunning.
He said, I was trying to be 27 at age 47, but God had to get rid of my vanity. I had trouble letting go of the old Lex physically. My human fleshy nature didn't want to let go of what had become to be billed as the total package. I guess God had to help me get rid of the last remnant of that vanity and pride. So, yeah, that's what he says.
Okay.
He said, I was making millions of dollars and had lots of fancy stuff and never realized why I wasn't satisfied. I chased a life of folly, a course of trivial pursuit. I had a feeling of invincibility.
Okay.
So it's at this point that he retires, which, you're in a wheelchair. He says when he retires, people like to see freaks. It's like a live cartoon character. He said, Vince McMahon sells bigger than life. And bigger than life, what does that mean? A lot of chemically enhanced heroes and villains. Guys my size, my height and size or bigger. You can't see that on the street every day. You have to buy a ticket to see that. So he basically sells the freaks, the modern era giants, the Hulk Hogans too. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. This is meant as a compliment in today's lingo. They're so out of the ordinary. He said steroids were there as a shortcut to get size. So, yeah. He said, with my generation, there was no accountability. We left the building at 11 o'clock, and you lived dual lives on the road. We were like a big dysfunctional family. We fed off each other, and then we'd go home and sober up. But unfortunately, drugs are drugs, and the guys let that spill over into their home lives, and if the families didn't get intervention and stuff, a lot of us died. Yeah, no shit. Then he says, you start with a painkiller for bumps and bruises, then you need more. It's never enough. Wow, I believe I was so close to dying so many times from overdoses. He says, I was a heartbeat away. I almost overdosed probably dozens of times. I had a really fast metabolism. Part of why Lex, so that's what he said. He said, part of why Lex stayed so lean wasn't just drugs. He's referring to himself in the third person. Yeah. I had to make sure I didn't float into another person's quote, but it still is. God blessed me with a very fast metabolism. I metabolized drugs quickly. That is not good, but it saved my life on a bunch of times. I went in deep a bunch of times with pills and alcohol. I was a real pill popper, and I abused alcohol toward the end, real bad, and I got caught with steroids in my house. I'm a convicted felon, and I deserve that. I take all accountability for that. He also says, it's the ends justifies the means in sports. We're taught that since we're little. The old do whatever you got to do to win, to be the best. Step over, step on, and step through. He said, so that is how all the performance-enhancing drugs got into our culture, and it led guys to wanting to take shortcuts and then cheat until you get caught and then lie. Okay. So, this doctor, he talks about him, and so he's got a lot of problems here. He can't walk.
Oh my God, his life is spiraling.
It's pretty fucking tough. It really is. Yeah. I mean, and everybody, it's affected people around him. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he's got 2 kids that have to deal with this. They're older now, but still, they still have to deal with their dad having all these fucking problems. And it's tough. I feel bad for all these people, Jimmy. Yeah. All these people, but not nearly as bad as I feel for Larry Pfohl. Who's
Larry Pfohl?
Pfohl. There he is, same guy. A millwright at Republic Steel.
Wow.
It's in Buffalo, so maybe this is one of his relatives or something. That's where he's from. Has to be. And finally, Larry Pfohl. This definitely isn't our guy. Self-employed, living in New Zealand. So other side of the world. Now
and self-employed.
And self-employed. So they said that in 2008, he started to be able to stand for short periods of time, that sort of thing. 2010, he was able to walk again.
Oh, it's a miracle.
He believes that God walked him through this and that the injury gave him a whole new perspective in life and helped him have empathy for other people. One day, or he said, one of the things I do is to try to get a positive message out there in the local schools and tell my story. I do a lot of faith-based speaking, sharing my story and testimony to help show what God has done in my life and what God can do in other people's lives. Damn it. Fuck.
Yes.
And he's doing that, too. He's doing that. The rest of the week's dedicated toward rehabilitative therapy. And also he does other shit, too. Here, charity stuff. He says that he's trying to help various ministries with which he's become associated. He said, I'm involved in quite a few ministries as a bridge builder, trying to match generous givers and donors to other ministries. Based on my past, I'm also involved in mainly in the prison ministry. I go to jails and prisons and share my story and try to get them some hope. He says that. He says years of wrestling and football were a factor. He says, sometimes I miss the old Lex that walks into a gym and bench presses half the gym, but if I could go back, I wouldn't change a thing because God sent me to so many wonderful places in my life as a result of this injury. He got me in a good place now. He also says he feels guilty for Liz now. What happened to her?
He should.
She said, Miss Elizabeth, I take a lot of responsibility for that, my influence in her life. Her little heart and body couldn't take what I was doing. Wow. I was just too strong for her. Everything.
Yeah.
I was just too massive and powerful for her. That was the problem.
I'm much bigger than her, and we took the same amount. That's why I'm here and she's not.
Yeah. He said over the years he's been criticized by many and even hated by a lot for letting Liz die and being abusive toward her until the very end. He was a dick to her, and everybody said he was kind of a jerk to her, and there's a lot going on there. I gave you his version from the book because we don't know what happened. That's the only version we have. All we do know is that that relationship was pretty fucked up and everybody involved in it around him said that. He says his response is, people will say what they want to say about you. Boy, if they get on you in the news or they want to take something to be true and make it sound like it's true, they can really run with it, man. He said, about hitting Liz, my lawyer asked me not to respond to it, so I kept quiet throughout it all. I kept quiet about Liz's death out of respect for her family, who had asked me not to say anything. Out of the love and respect I had for her, I never responded to any of that bullshit. So then they said, do you feel like they were questioning you or putting blame on you for her death? And he said, I can't stop people from doing that, but I know in my heart what she felt toward me and what I felt towards her. There's nothing but love there. And then he cries. Yeah. So there's that.
He better.
2012, they are inducting the 4 horsemen that year. And Lex Luger, it is announced, will not be inducted because of his involvement in the death of Elizabeth. And that looks like shit. Plus, Here's what Vince doesn't want. Here's what Vince does want. Hall of Fame ceremony. He wants older guys to come out in wonderful suits looking like they've been successful their whole life and say how great wrestling is. Right. What you don't want is a guy who's 130 pounds shriveled up in a wheelchair fucking wheel out there and say how sad things have gone for him, but Jesus will help you. That's not the speech you're looking for. That looks like, oh, God, that's what happens to wrestlers who wrestle for 20 years. That's not what he's trying to advertise.
Professing all your regret for how you've lived your life for the past 15 years.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, all of the wrestling. Yeah, here's the official quote. Luger not being included stems from, who's this a quote from here? This is, what the fuck? Oh, this is, according to Rings, I don't know if this is a quote from WWE or what, but Lex not being included stems from some negativity that surrounds his legacy due to his close relationship with Miss Elizabeth at the time of her death, and then explains that. So they said, we have learned that Luger's name was brought up in a conversation about the Four Horsemen, but his name was later scrapped, as there are many people in the business that view him as, helping Liz die, basically. Right. So they said that it's often believed that him leaving, it's the Nitro thing. That's what it is. He fucking left and pissed them off. He could kill 12 people. If he didn't piss Vince off, he'd be in the Hall of Fame, period. So he's the one guy Vince will never take back and never would and it's hates him.
For him, yeah.
But the good news is for him, he might not be able to get in the WWE Hall of Fame and get a Legends contract for merchandise and stuff. They do have figures of him. But the good news is November 20th, 2012, he appeared on Season 6, Episode 15 of Hardcore Pawn, selling his ring robe.
Oh, no.
For $3,500. So it's less than he paid for it.
Yeah.
And to less gold with the cash going to charity, apparently. It was a charity gig. The robe was later purchased by some other guy. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Okay. So 2013 is when he came out with his memoir, Wrestling with the Devil. The true story, it's called, just Wrestling with the Devil, the true story of a world champion professional wrestler, his reign, ruin, and redemption. Wow, it's a lot. He's also started becoming in all the video games from about 2011 on. He's in all the WWE games. He's always a downloadable guy. You don't want to use him, though, because he's boring and lame.
So they give that means he gives money, right?
His moves suck. Yeah, they got to be paying him something, for that. So Sting wrote the foreword to Lex's book, and he said that he never stopped trying to reach out to him. He said, the only time that he called me was when Elizabeth Hewlett died from an overdose of alcohol and pills, a tragic event that rocked not just the wrestling community, but Lex's own world. Lex Luger, one of the toughest, most powerful pro wrestlers, was shattered and wrecked. To the world, it seemed like his story was over, but God was just getting started with Lex. Oh boy. And then he talks about, it's all about God. That's every other word is fucking God here. He actually brings up Corinthians 5:17, 2 Corinthians 5:17. So we all know that one. I know that's your favorite, Jimmy. I know it's a favorite of yours.
I think that one's actually a hacky one that is quoted a lot.
A lot of times. It's, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. Old things have passed away. Behold, all things that have become anew. So you can, that's the born again shit is what that is. That's, you can wipe it all away and it doesn't matter what you've done. So 2021, he became completely reliant on a wheelchair for mobility. So now he never gets out of the wheelchair. In a wheelchair, going to church. Can't get enough of Lex Luger? Well, you can watch pretty much everything he's ever done in wrestling on Peacock on the WWE network on there. You can watch Nitro. You can watch all the WWE. You can watch the Lex Express stuff. You can watch it all.
He's in a wheelchair permanently.
He's bound, bro. He's in that chair. And there's a million figures, too, if you're a collector of those figures. There's a ton of Lex Luger figures. The Narcissist one's pretty cool when I was looking it up. It's got like his whole shoulder pad outfit on and shit, like his big robe. It's kind of neat. So anyway, that is Lex Luger. Larry Lawrence Wendell Pfohl. I'm sorry.
He is going to die a terrible death.
Yeah, Lex is not going to, the rest of his life is going to be physically very difficult for him.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, Jesus, he had the greatest physical life for so long. He's jumping on cars, having girls do his homework. Like, he's got a lot going on.
Flipping cars over. Jesus.
Flipping them over. That is Lex Luger. If you enjoyed that, our WrestleMania week treat here, you can do lots of things about it. You can go on whatever app or platform you're listening to and give us 5 stars. It helps out a lot. So do that. It does. It helps out the show. We don't know why. Just the weird algorithms. They want people to say shit, so say something. Do that. Head over to shutupandgivememurder.com right now. Get your tickets for live shows. Get your merchandise. We're in Columbus and Pittsburgh this weekend for Small Town Murder. There's Crime and Sports Show in August and Sacramento at Ace of Spades if you're looking for that. Also tons of merch, like I said. You can follow us on social media. We are at Murder, or this is Crime and Sports, wrong one. We are at Crime and Sports on Twitter and Facebook, and at Small Town Murder on Instagram. See, I started at the end. So also Patreon this week. Good stuff. Oh my goodness. Patreon.com/Crime and Sports. God damn it, the show's good this week. We have really good shit. $5 or above. Anybody on those, you get access to Crime and Sports and Small Town Murders Patreons. They're all in one, and it's good stuff. This week for Crime and Sports, we covered the best April Fool's hoax ever, maybe. Fooling an entire Major League team's fan base into thinking they've gotten the greatest pitcher in the history of the world. And he's just an art teacher from Maine who takes pictures because he knows the SI photographer. So it's pretty goddamn amusing. Very funny. And then for Small Town Murders, we talked about one of the worst people ever, Diane Downs, who shot all 3 of her kids and then slightly wounded herself. One of her kids ended up dying, and the other 2 were very badly wounded. Yes. And then made up a whole story that's ridiculous, and she won't move off of it, and she's clearly lying. And it's just disturbing to hear this lady's
stories. It meanders. It's a fun one.
We really concentrate on an appearance of where she was on Oprah when the whole crowd is just 45-year-old women laughing at her and then shaking their heads in disgust at her. Amazing. You can get all of that, patreon.com/Crime and Sports, and you're going to get a shout out, which goddamn it, we're about ready for that.
Oh boy.
I think it's time for that. Yes, you'll get your shout out. If you want a shout out and just to have great karma, you can do that as well over at PayPal using our email address, crimeandsports@gmail.com. It's time, Jimmy. I want you to hit me with the names of the people who would never, ever, ever, ever let us choke to death on their couch while not paying attention. Jimmy, hit me with that list.
This week's executive producers are Raptor 1, happy birthday from Raptor 2, Mark Wimmer, David Cook, Chris Brown, happy 40th birthday, not the girl beater. David Barnhart, actually it's Chris Brown with a K. I think that's a lady.
Totally different.
David Barnhart, John Coddling, love you, bud. Molly Fletcher, happy birthday. Jordan Bennett, Amanda Thomas Connolly. Yeah, Connolly. Other producers executive producers are our favorite.
Everybody.
You guys are fucking amazing. Truly, thank you for everything you do. Other producers this week are Haley Hoffman. She's now Haley Kroll. Congratulations on your marriage, I imagine. Or just your...
Decide to change your name. You start. Get that shitty family away
She's
from you.
in the program, possibly.
That's all.
Justine McNeil, in honor of Good Dads Everywhere. She misses her dad. It was an anniversary of him passing away. Shitta Perlman, happy birthday. 91st birthday.
My
I don't think that person exists.
No, I doubt it. But still, we'll take it.
Povilas Basivius, his wife Deborah Frances Phipps. Was it his wife? It was in memory of Deborah. I don't know if it was his wife or his mom. I'm an asshole. I think it was his wife.
Come on, Jimmy.
Away. God damn it. Peyton Meadows also. Cody Leversey? Yes, it's Leversey. The kid from fucking Michigan. Can't wait to see you, bud. Centeno Kennels in Canada. Mama Dixie Normus. Are you proud of yourself? Corporal Carl Kirshner Hoare. Shlomo Gleckstein. Pamela Solig. Kelly Ann Collin. Happy anniversary. They're engaged for 8 years.
Wow.
Maybe get on top of getting married.
Fuck's
Jesus
sake.
Christ. Troy Moriarty, Janice Hill, Frank the South African birdwasher, Alicia Pillmore, moving to another state. Hang in there, Alicia. This life isn't easy. John Justo, happy birthday. Raya the Sky Cat, Sky Rat, calling champion, Bradenburg. That's who it is. Evan Adkins, yes. Jay, it's a Sky Rat caller.
Pigeon.
Yeah, I think that's what those are. Or bats. I don't know.
No, New York is Sky Rat's a pigeon.
That's what you guys got?
Pigeon. Right. It's a rat with wings.
All right. Joshua Brandyberry, and his brother Jake. See you guys soon. Braden Hovelman, Jay Young, Bethany with no last name, Tiana Green, Tyler Ham, David Hemsley, Angel Taco Salas, Peyton with no last name, Lorraine Genko, Kyle Kirsch, Nicole Hoople, Phil with no last name, Phil. Is that you?
All this gun, man.
Garrett with no last name, Pedro Ruiz, Reagan Hollier, Eli Cade, Aiden Wolf, Christopher Anthus, Rebecca Seeger, what a sweet niche. What a sweet niche. I don't know what that's supposed to say. Patrick Cunningham, Matt DeYoung, Tyler W.S., Raven Ori, Cassidy Vilo, Brandon McCarty, Christopher Phelan, Thomas Atkinson, Stephen with no last name, Patrick Drain, Tina Ward, Ginkgo with no last name, Lonely Factory, Dustin Miller, Angela Pruitt, Jacob T., Whisper Means, Sherry Seifert, Nick Cowper, Jessica Jones, Jessica Duss, Kit Kat 83, B83, Brian Ribby. This is tough this week. Maricela Paget, Karsten Dews, Karsten Don'ts, Benjamin Hall, Tyler Skaggs, Asia Johnson, Kelsey Spainhauer, Sarah Ertz, Daniel Gade, Andrew Reed, Donna Mildrum, Christina Kolka, Billy Lee Walker, Brittany, Ireland, Sue Randall, Anita Schneider DeVries, Lindsay Weiss, Chancellor Bailey, Stephen Wolfgang, Jake Klaber, Hillary Wolf, Mary Jo Bullock, Kaylee Carlton, Lindsay Smith, Alex Baldwin, Lieutenant Dan's Legs, Don Moritz, Patrick Mosley, Emily Harris, Candy Stacy, Zachary Ogle, Megan Zabatini, Nick Tracewell, Fro Zastro, Jasmine Thomas, Patty Tamble, Indiegal 1218, Kristen Spires, Michaela, nope, that's just Kayla, Boastfulness.
Got that?
Bofasuth. Megan with no last name, Daryl Roskam, Disco with no last name, Elizabeth with no last name, Justin Lawrence, Hamp with no last name, John Keith, Ben Kastelski, Sky, Cody Wiganant, Allison Melcher, Brandy Cavane, Don McManus, Damian Wilkinson, Christopher Garza, Lee Menzie, Don Moritz, Cassidy Claridge, John Tyus, Tina with no last name, Jessica Greer, Jacob Keene, M. Richard, Hunter Bibb, Jesus Christ. Tony Cuffy.
The wheels are coming off the cart here, man.
Sutherland. Danny Holmesdoder. Jen Parker. Veda Elizabeth. Barbara Averill. Leslie Palmer. Dylan Bowler. Michael Donnelly. CJ Dellis. Julie Williamson. Lauren Ford. Rebecca Kane. Arezki. Welker. Tracy Thomas. Grace Morris. Shannon Monroe. Steve Howard. Jared Mead. Tracy Frodkoyer, Anna Marie Kopskaklandi. Kopskaklandi?
Yeah, that's the one. Totally correct.
Kyle West, Brian Buntain, Aaron Higelund, Terry Hahn, Amber V. Knight, Mike Johnson, Terry Peterson, Joseph McMugaligan, Madison DeBoard, Ghost Rider No More, Jason Via Roman, Madeline with no last name, Jason Winters, Eric Molnar, Smith with no first name, Ronnie A. Cox, Annalena Dressler. Oh, she's fantastic. She's been around for a long time. Pat Hogan, Christina Roisum, Leslie Schuyler, Melanie Twitty, Conway's daughter. Hannah Zito, that's Chuck's daughter.
Or Barry's, either one.
There you go. Ashley Smith, Lisa Gordeau, Jay Bison, Kelly Knopp, Andrea Kozmak, Cedar Wilkins, Danny Markham, James LaBouffe, Tyler DeRush, Kevin Sullivan, Erica Sacco, Chris Arsenault, Benjamin with no last name, Richard Powell, Jessica Craig, Dallas Perkins, Oregon Trail Besties, Nick Human, Harley Harrington, Blake Calloway, Melanie Black, Jacqueline Eman, Ben White, Tom Hool, Amanda Rosario, Jack Spirit, Kevin Gross, sorry, sir, Garrett Williams, Pi Jacobs, Antonio Rico, Dougie Fresh, Jenny La Jolla, nope, L.E. Loya, Samuel Hopwood, Jesse. Nope, that's Lewis. Lewis Bates, Jessica Marie Kelly, Alexandra Conrad, Greg Niemi, Maureen A. Burt, what is this? Joseph Bartolotta, Zachary with no last name, Jessica Elwell, Cassandra Nicole, Justin Hansen, Christine Red CCC, Equiano Ultra, Liz Upton, Atifa, and all of our patrons. You guys, you're unbelievable. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts. We do appreciate it. Thank you. We really, really do appreciate you supporting the show and supporting us. And we hope you love the bonus content because we want you to love it. That's why we put it out. Otherwise, what the fuck are we doing it for? So, hope you like it. Thank you, honestly. And you want to follow us on social media? Easy to do it. Just find us. After it. Shutupandgivememurder.com. All the links are there. We're there. We're not going to fucking go anywhere. So that said, thank you so much for joining us for a wrestling episode, one of our favorites, and we'll keep coming back. And we'll keep coming back because live from the Crime and Sports Studios, we will see you next week.
Bye.
If you like crime and sports, you can listen early and ad-free now by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts. Prime members can listen early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Before you go, tell us about yourself by filling out a short survey at Wondery.com/survey.
He was hip-hop's biggest mogul, the man who redefined fame, fortune, and the music industry.
The first male rapper to be honored on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, Sean Diddy Combs.
Diddy built an empire and lived a life most people only dream about.
Everybody know ain't no party like a Diddy party, so.
Yeah, that's what's up.
But just as quickly as his empire rose, it came crashing down.
Today I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment, charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution.
I was up. I hit rock bottom, but I make no excuses. I'm disgusted. I'm so sorry.
Until you're wearing an orange jumpsuit, it's not real. Now it's real.
From his meteoric rise to his shocking fall from grace, from law and crime, this is the rise and fall of Diddy. Listen to the rise and fall of Diddy exclusively with Wondery Plus